Chapter 340. After filming the movie, Yang Yi returned home in the evening and began to pack his luggage. He folded up some of Shishi's clothes and put them in the suitcase. Shishi, who had just finished a call with her mother, grabbed her phone with both hands and ran in. When she saw this scene, she squatted down curiously and looked at the suitcase with her father. "Papa, what are you doing?" "I'm packing. Didn't you say you missed your mother? Daddy will take you to see your mother tomorrow, okay?" Yang Yi raised his head and said with a smile. This was something that Yang Yi had been planning for a long time. Not only did he ask Chen Yijie for VIP tickets to the front row of the concert, he also asked Fu Jun, who was based in Yangcheng, to book a hotel for them to temporarily rest in. Fu Jun also prepared a car for Yang Yi. Murphy, this silly woman, always wanted to shoulder the pressure outside by herself. Yang Yi felt that instead of asking her to go home to see her daughter, it would be better for him to send Shishi to meet her mother, so that Murphy could work with peace of mind. The little girl had already taken a bath and was wearing a small nightgown. Yang Yi was worried that she would catch a cold, so he asked her to wear a coat, which made her look very ladylike. "Really?" Shishi's eyes widened and asked in surprise. "I can see Mom tomorrow?" "Ah, I didn't tell Mom just now." The little girl's skin was very good. Although the winter weather was a bit dry, Shishi's little face was still tender after taking a bath. Now that she had a regretful expression, she looked like a little adult. She was very cute and made people want to pinch her. "You don't have to tell your mother, let's give her a surprise." Yang Yi deliberately lowered his voice and said to Shishi mysteriously. "Surprise? Then I won't tell Mom, but how can I give Mom a surprise?" Shishi couldn't help but lower her voice. It was as if she was whispering to her father, and it took a lot of effort for her to speak. "Listen to me." Yang Yi was still a child at heart. He and his daughter squatted together. Even though there was no one else in the room, they began to discuss the big plan in a low voice. The next morning, Murphy took a flight from Shanghai to Guangzhou. The mall that was holding the signing event with Tianmei sent a car to pick her up. Mo Xiaowan sat in the front passenger seat and chatted with the driver about the delicacies of Yangcheng. The drivers from Guangdong province weren't as talkative, but this old driver was quite talkative. He could talk about anything that flew in the sky, crawled on the ground, swam in the water, and all kinds of delicacies. Murphy sat at the back. She did not have the habit of chatting with strangers. She held her phone and sent a message to Yang Yi to let him know that she was safe. He didn't call because the driver wasn't one of them. After sending the message, Murphy didn't put down her phone. Instead, she held it in her hands and waited for Yang Yi's reply. The two of them had a tacit understanding. Yang Yi would always have his phone with him, so he would always reply to her messages within seconds. Murphy was the same, but she didn't have the ability to carry her phone around all day. Therefore, she would call Yang Yi every day at the time they agreed on. She would call Yang Yi without fail. Murphy was someone who didn't like change. She was also a woman who lacked a sense of security. If Yang Yi suddenly stopped replying to her messages, she would be worried for a long time. Of course, as long as Yang Yi took the initiative to explain to her, the feelings that she had accumulated would immediately disappear. Yang Yi knew Murphy's characteristics, so he carefully protected her and gave her a sense of security. Sure enough, not long after, Murphy received a message from Yang Yi. However, this time, the content of the message wasn't just Yang Yi's routine concern. He also asked where Murphy was staying at night, and whether she had made the appropriate arrangements. Although Murphy felt that the message was a little strange, she didn't think too much about it. She simply thought that Chen Yijie wanted to make arrangements for her. She honestly told Yang Yi the name of the hotel she was staying at. Four Seasons Hotel. It was arranged by the organizers of the signing event. There's no need to trouble Tian Xiang. The signing event was very successful. A lot of people came to the venue. Since Murphy arrived at 10 in the morning, the signing event, which was originally scheduled to end at 12, was extended by an hour. However, that was only enough to satisfy the majority of the fans who wanted to sign autographs. The line of passionate fans was still very long, and the end couldn't be seen. Murphy hadn't seen such a popular phenomenon in many years. She was moved by the passionate fans and wanted to sign autographs for all of them before leaving. However, she had no choice. She had other plans in the afternoon. It was the final rehearsal for Chun Ijia's concert. She couldn't delay other people's plans because of her own selfishness. So, after Mo Shaowan negotiated with the organizers, the signing event had to end hastily. There were still a lot of fans who couldn't get Murphy's autograph in the long line, but they didn't cause any trouble. After Murphy's sincere explanation, they all expressed their understanding. Among the fans present, there were a lot of people who bought tickets to Chun Ijia's concert. Of course, they bought the tickets because they wanted to see Chun Ijia. In the Cantonese area, Chun Ijia's fame was like the sun at noon. These people who were willing to spend money to chase after celebrities naturally wouldn't miss Chun Ijia's concert. Then we'll see you at the concert tonight. Murphy waved her hand gratefully and left with Mo Shaowan in the car. There was no time to rest at all. Even for lunch, Murphy ate in the nanny van. Perhaps it was because she was used to Yang Yi's meticulously prepared food. Murphy felt that these boxed lunches were very difficult to eat. Even though the boxed lunches that the organizers provided for her and her assistant were already packed from a big hotel. However, in winter food cooled down quickly. Murphy felt that these supposedly delicious Cantonese dishes such as sliced chicken and braised pork with preserved vegetables were all cold and tasteless. They weren't as delicious as Yang Yi's cooking. Missing Yang Yi in her heart, Murphy only ate a few mouthfuls to fill her stomach. Of course, she wouldn't complain about the organizers because of her preferences. Because this was the price that the stars had to pay. Not to mention Murphy, even the superstar Chun Ijia was too busy to eat for his concert. When Murphy and others arrived, Chun Ijia was wearing a warm military coat and standing on the stage of the stadium in the whistling cold wind. He was walking on the stage while holding a microphone to communicate with the stage supervisor. When Murphy arrived, Chun Ijia went to the backstage to receive Murphy. His assistant took the opportunity to pass his lunch to him and let him eat a few mouthfuls. Sorry, I made a fool of myself. Do you mind? By the way, do you want to eat? Chun Ijia was also polite to Murphy. He didn't eat a few mouthfuls and hurriedly took Murphy to the stage. I will go downstairs to change my clothes after singing the fourth song, which is the song Long Time No See. Then I'll have to trouble you to sing your song. Okay. Murphy followed him, speaking less and listening more. I'll ask the band to accompany you in a while. You can try it. Oh right. Chun Ijia spoke straightforwardly, but he thought of something, turned his head, and said with a smile, Miss Mo used to be a singer in Harbor City, so you should have no problem singing Cantonese songs, right? This was also an extra question. Chun Ijia and Murphy now communicated in Cantonese. After all, his Mandarin was good at singing his own songs, but it was still a little difficult for him to communicate with her. No problem. Murphy nodded and looked at Chun Ijia with some doubts, not knowing why he mentioned this history. That's good. I also want to cooperate with Miss Mo on Mr. Mu Xiang's Better Not See You. What do you think? Chun Ijia said excitedly. Just after you finish singing your song, I'll change my clothes and go back to the stage. Sing a Cantonese song. Murphy hadn't sung a Cantonese song in front of the public for many years, but Chun Ijia's proposal made her excited. Although she had achieved success in the mainland market, she had to admit that the failure in Harbor City made Murphy a little upset. Okay. Murphy agreed readily. Then let's have a try. Wait a minute, I'll bring you a sheet of lyrics. Let's practice how to sing. Chun Ijia snapped his fingers and said happily. Chapter 341. Night had just fallen, and the neon lights in Yangqing looked unusually lively. Winter in this city wasn't particularly cold. Even though it was already the 12th lunar month, compared to Jiang City, the temperature at night was still considered very warm. She finally didn't have to cover herself up. She didn't need a hat, gloves, sweater, or trousers. She wore an orange-red down jacket and a wine-red scarf. It was beautiful and warm enough. Moreover, she was in her father's arms. Her father's embrace gave her warmth and a sense of security. She wrapped her arms around her father's neck excitedly and looked around. They were waiting in line for the ticket check to enter. This was the Yangqing Stadium. It could hold 50,000 people, including the 2,000 VIP seats near the stage. This scale was much larger than Jiang City's popular house music hall. It was said that the concert tickets had been sold out a month ago, so there was a long queue even at the VIP ticket check. Fortunately, Yang Yi didn't mind. "Papa, there are so many people here." She looked excitedly for a while before she whispered in her father's ear. "There are so many people. How are we going to find Mom?" "There's no need to look for her. We'll watch from below the stage. When Mom goes on stage to sing, we'll be able to see her," Yang Yi whispered in Xishi's ear. "Really? Mom can sing? I love hearing Mom sing." Xishi's eyes lit up. She tugged at her scarf, which was a little uncomfortable. After all, the weather wasn't too hot. But you have to promise Dad that you won't shout when the time comes." Yang Yi reached out to tidy his daughter's hair and said gently. I know. I can't let anyone know." Xixi nodded sensibly. She even put up a finger and made a shushing gesture, but her eyes were curved with a smile. "Let's not talk about the past anymore. Just a small talk. I'll say one sentence to you, just one sentence." Chun Yijia's soulful singing gradually faded on the stage. However, the more than 40,000 passionate fans in the audience did not make a single sound. They were quiet, swaying their light sticks, as if they were looking at the night sky at the North Pole. Everyone was immersed in Chun Yijia's singing. Only when Chun Yijia slowly sang the last line, "Long time no see," did they start clapping. Most of them didn't even dare to disturb Chun Yijia's affectionate expression. Only a few fangirls couldn't help but shout, "Isin." In the end, the applause and cheers sounded like an explosion after a long silence. This was Chun Yijia's stage appeal. Yang Yi couldn't help but applaud for him. "Thank you everyone." Chun Yijia thanked them in Cantonese and repeated it in Mandarin. "I'm going to change my clothes. But don't be in a hurry everyone. Today I've invited a guest who sings really well. She's also a very popular singer." Before Chun Yijia could finish, some of the audience had already shouted out Murphy's name for him. After all, this wasn't a secret. Tian Xiang and Tian Mei had already announced the news. "That's right, it's Miss Murphy. Welcome." Chun Yijia smiled and raised his hand above his head. He clapped as he turned to look backstage. Murphy, dressed to the nines, was slowly walking out. The big screen was already projecting her. Mom, it's Mom." Xixi, who was below the stage, cried out in surprise. However, she quickly remembered her promise to her father. She quickly lowered her voice and shook her father's hand, eager to tell him about this discovery. The scene was very noisy. If one didn't speak loudly, they wouldn't be able to hear it. Yang Yi glanced at the audience nearby. When he saw that they didn't notice, he relaxed. He put Xixi on his lap and lowered his head. His face was pressed against her soft hair as he said, "Yes, it's Mom. Your mom is going to sing." Xixi nodded happily. She waved the light stick in her hand excitedly. Previously, she had only waved it around because it was fun. Now Xixi wanted to do her best to attract her mother's attention. Murphy, who was on the stage, walked to Chun Yijia's side. Chun Yijia politely made an inviting gesture. He smiled and introduced her to the fans below the stage. To be honest, Murphy and I weren't familiar with each other before. Although I've always known that there's a singer in China who has a very good voice and singing skills. And of course, Murphy is also very beautiful. But trust me, she's definitely not going to walk the path of an idol singer. She's a talented singer like me. This was a bit like selling melons to a woman. Chun Yijia's humor was met with laughter from the fans and a round of applause for Murphy. Murphy stood gracefully on the stage like a snow lotus. She was quiet and elegant, but she wasn't cold and heartless. She still smiled slightly and interacted with Chun Yijia a little. This was already very rare. My interaction with Murphy was because of Teacher Mu Xiang. Teacher Mu Xiang not only wrote, "Long Time No See," and "Better Not to See for Me," but also wrote many classic songs for Murphy. So trust me, when Murphy replaces me to warm up the stage, her singing won't disappoint everyone. Everyone just needs to enjoy her heavenly voice to the fullest. Chun Yijia's introduction made many fans who didn't pay attention to Murphy interested in Murphy. Mu Xiang? Chun Yijia's fans were now very familiar with this songwriter. What would the song he wrote for another singer be like? "Isin, you're overpraising me. Murphy was a little embarrassed by the praise and couldn't help but say, "Not at all. By the way, Murphy, what song are you going to bring us today?" Chun Ijia pretended not to know and asked with a smile. "A new song from my new album, Listen to the Sea." Murphy held the microphone and said, "Okay, then the stage will be handed over to you." Chun Ijia waved his hand and went backstage to change his clothes through the gas-filled elevator. On the big stage, except for the band behind, there was only Murphy left. More than 40,000 audience looked at her, standing alone and quietly on the stage. Murphy seemed to feel lonely and helpless. Murphy was actually a little nervous. She hadn't stood on such a big stage for almost 6 years, right? She almost forgot the feeling of being the focus of attention. But in the prelude of Listen to the Sea, as soon as the clean piano sound came, Murphy immediately put this little nervousness behind her. It seemed that the familiarity imprinted in her bones made Murphy enter the singing state. The string music also began to join in. This beautiful prelude made many of Chun Ijia's fans quiet down and listen carefully. "Write to me and tell me what color the sea is today." Murphy's equally clean voice opened the curtain of the sea. Her voice was really good. Chun Ijia's fans were basically people who really loved listening to music. They didn't pay too much attention to Murphy's fairy-like appearance superficially. As soon as Murphy opened her mouth, they already had their own judgment of Murphy's voice. This evaluation was not bad. Accompanying your sea every night, how do you feel? If the first sentence was to show off her voice, then the second sentence was to show off Murphy's singing skills. It was still a clean and ethereal voice, but it sang this small high note beautifully without leaving any trace. Almost everyone heard this small high note, but most people ignored the difficulty of this small high note because of Murphy's singing skills. Perhaps anyone could sing a high note in this section, but to sing such a normal high note, sing up and down slowly, and sing with such ease, I'm afraid only a few people could do it. Where did such a good singer come from? Many fans who were not familiar with Murphy were now interested in learning more about Murphy. Chapter 342. Gray is not wanting to say it, blue is melancholy. And you, who are drifting, where does your heart stop? Murphy was on the stage, and the spotlight only shone on her body. Dressed in a white dress, she was like an angel singing, and her strong feelings were reflected in her clear voice. Even if they did not appreciate Murphy's voice and singing skills, it did not matter, because the lyrics of this song were enough to amaze people. Just like a drunken lover, every word, every sentence, and every paragraph tugged at the heartstrings of the audience. Why are you clearly in love, but you don't get close? Look how sad was this line. What kind of feeling was that of pretending to be fine, but having your heart broken? This was just the foundation. The real climax was like the waves of the sea, layer upon layer, and finally, the accumulated power exploded. Listen to the sound of the sea crying. Murphy's voice seemed to have finally broken free from the previous suppression, and was able to completely release its energy, and soared with abandon. Suddenly, everyone could feel their scalp tingling, and their eardrums exploding. Yes, at this moment, Murphy showed the true power of her high notes, and the audience was attracted by her outburst. Even Chun Ijia, who was changing and getting ready backstage, could not help but stop what he was doing and stop to listen. His hands made some small movements, and he seemed to be intoxicated by Murphy's singing. Of course, to say how high this high note was, it was not exaggerated to the point that it was amazing. Murphy's singing of this section, which shocked people, was not how high her notes were, but how she went from the previous suppression to the outburst, and the leap in the range. She sang this section from the beginning to the end. The high notes kept rising, and there was no trace of breathing in the middle, or it could be said that she did not breathe at all, and in the process of constantly rising, it was terrifyingly stable. Why did it sound good? Because she sang a feeling that could not be sung in other people's songs. I'm sighing. Whose heart has been hurt, but who is still not clear-headed. It's definitely not me. At least I'm very calm. But tears, even tears don't believe. Listen to the sound of the sea crying. Chun Ijia stood backstage and listened for a long time. He listened as Murphy used her extraordinary control over the high notes and the long breath she had practiced since she was a child to sing this part in a relaxed manner. She switched between her real and fake voice at will, and the high and low notes were steady and smooth. Then it was followed by another hair-raising explosion. Phew! Chun Ijia finally let out a long sigh, as if he had been holding his breath and carefully admiring it. Amazing! Amazing! He shook his head and couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Is he really that powerful? You can't even stop praising Isin. Yi Xiaofeng, who was now working as Chun Ijia's assistant, could not help but ask. Chun Ijia looked at her and smiled. He continued to change his clothes and said, "Of course Murphy sang well, and Mr. Mu Ziong wrote the song well. Oh, by the way, what's the position of this song on the new best-selling chart? Let me check." Yi Xiaofeng quickly checked with her mobile phone and said, "It's currently ranked 9th. It's only been a day and it's risen by 1 place. The people of Tianmei did it on purpose. They used other songs to hit the charts first and deliberately didn't promote this song." Although Chun Ijia was not very involved in those operations, he could be regarded as an old man in the entertainment industry. At a glance, he could see through the relationship behind this. He chuckled and said, "Everyone thinks that Coming Across the Ocean to See You, or In My Voice, is the title song of Mo Fei's album, but in fact it's not. This song, Listen to the Sea, is the real trump card." "So powerful?" Yi Xiaofeng exclaimed. The makeup artist was hurriedly touching up Chun Ijia's makeup. She had to go around to the other side and asked, "Isin, do you think this song is better than the previous 2? Yi Xiaofeng, as the daughter of a shareholder of Tianxiang, asked so unscrupulously. If it were another assistant, they would have been reprimanded. Chun Ijia waited until the makeup on his face was done, and the makeup artist was helping him fix his hair. Then he slowly said, "It's much better. This song is the one that can really show Murphy's strength. Look at Murphy's performance tonight. I dare say that a promotion is an insult to this song. As long as Murphy can protect her voice, she can sing this song for the rest of her life." It was the representative of representative works. Mr. Mu Ziong is still the best. What are the songs that Murphy sang before? They all treated Murphy as a vase. Who can recognize the real strength of Murphy? In the end, it was Mr. Mu Ziong who really showed Murphy's strength with an absolutely classic song. Chun Ijia couldn't help but sigh. He didn't know that Yang Yi didn't have this level at all. This guy just happened to think that Murphy's voice was not worse than Amei's, so he gave Amei's representative work to his woman. However, Chun Ijia was right. Listen to the Sea had been tested by time. Why did it need to be proven by results? Yi Xiaofeng couldn't help but say, "Isin, what about Long Time No See that Mr. Mu Ziong wrote for you? Which one is more classic between the 2 songs?" Chun Ijia was silent for a moment. He shook his head with a wry smile and said, "It's hard to say. Long Time No See and Listen to the Sea are 2 different types of songs. They can't be compared. However, I still envy Murphy because my voice is not bad. If I can sing a high-pitched song like Listen to the Sea, the feeling should be very good, right? Haha." To be honest, Chun Ijia was now listening to Murphy's high-pitched voice, and he was also itching to perform. "Then you should also ask Mr. Mu Ziong to write a high-pitched song for you," Yi Xiaofeng said naively. Chun Ijia smiled and said, "This kind of song can only be found by chance. Of course, now I'm also on good terms with Mr. Mu Ziong. Maybe when he has the inspiration to write a high-pitched song suitable for men to sing, my chance will come." As he spoke, his hands did not stop moving. The director had also come to urge them. Murphy's Listen to the Sea was at the end. Chun Ijia waited for a while, then walked out from the backstage. According to the previous agreement, he asked Murphy to stay. "Everyone, do you think Murphy's song is good?" Chun Ijia shouted. "It's good." After all, they were Chun Ijia's fans. Under his instigation, the audience cheered, which made Murphy feel a little flattered. Mo Fei is a talented singer that I admire and recognize very much. She is now launching a new album, First Dream. The 12 songs in it are all written by Mr. Mu Ziong, who I have worked with before. For example, this song, Listen to the Sea. Every song is very classic. Well, I can tell you that I have already bought a copy of it for my collection. Chun Ijia was not hinting at all. He was already blatantly helping Mo Fei to win the award. This actually seemed a little stupid. After all, it was encouraging his fans to buy another singer's song. If it was not a confident superstar like Chun Ijia, others would not dare to do so. Murphy was so surprised that she couldn't close her mouth. She quickly raised the microphone and thanked Chun Ijia. She, who was simple-minded, did not know that Chun Ijia's real purpose of helping her was to show goodwill to Yang Yi. Since Mu Xiang helped Mo Fei like this, Chun Ijia would not be so stupid to think that the two of them were just friends. Although he would not tell Yi Xiaofeng and others about his guess, it was not wrong to do something based on this guess. This was the wisdom of the world. After this episode, Chun Ijia got back on track. According to the previous discussion, he deliberately asked about Murphy's experience of her early debut in Harbor City, and then invited Murphy to sing Better Not to Meet with him. Would you like to listen? Chun Ijia pointed the microphone to the audience and put his ears to listen. Yes. The audience below the stage was so excited that they almost went crazy. After listening to the song Listen to the Sea, they had already recognized Mo Fei's singing skills. Now that two powerful singers were singing together, this happiness came too suddenly. What about Miss Murphy? Chun Ijia looked at Murphy. It's my honor. Murphy smiled. The audience was so happy that they were going crazy, but one person was a little unhappy. Chapter 343. She was a little unhappy. At first she was happy. When her mother came out, she kept shaking the light stick in her hand. She was full of joy and looked forward to her mother seeing her. However, Murphy didn't even look at the audience. She didn't know that Murphy was the most engrossed in singing. She didn't have the habit of looking around. Papa, Mom can't see She looked at her mother talking to others on the stage and felt jealous. The little girl finally couldn't help but turn her head and complain. How could there be a surprise when her mother couldn't see her? It doesn't matter. We can go to the hotel to find her later. Yang Yi comforted her in a low voice. There are so many people here. Even if she sees she can't immediately say hello to Shi. Yang Yi brought his daughter to the concert simply to see Murphy's performance on the stage and listen to Murphy's singing. His original plan was to wait for Murphy to go back to the hotel and then knock on the door with Shi to give Murphy a surprise. In the morning, after knowing the hotel where Mo Fei was staying, he had already taken Cici away from the hotel that was originally arranged for them to stay temporarily, and then booked a presidential suite at the Four Seasons Hotel. He even used some tricks that he learned in his previous life to steal Mo Fei's room number from the front desk. All the plans went smoothly. He hoped that Murphy didn't find him and Shi at the concert, so that the planned surprise could be carried out. He could imagine Yang Yi knocking on Murphy's door with Shi and a bouquet of flowers in his arms. Then he deliberately lowered his voice and said, "Hey, you have a delivery. How fun it would be to treat Shi as a delivery." However, now he had to appease Shi, who was eager to reunite with her mother. But, Shi didn't know what to say. Things had developed differently from what she had expected. The little girl felt very wronged. Okay, let's not make things difficult for your mother, right? There are more than 40,000 people here, and the stage is dark. It's too difficult for your mother to find you, Yang Yi said. But I promise you that I will let Shi see her tonight. Then Pinky swear with me. Don't go back on your word. Shi pouted. Although she was a little reluctant, she still reached out her little finger and chose to forgive him. Okay. Yang Yi Pinky swear with his daughter and said while holding back his laughter. Pinky swear. The one who lies is Xiao Guai. Because the singing hadn't started on the stage yet, Yang Yi whispered in Shi's ear again. The little girl immediately heard the problem. She was happy and giggled. It's not Xiao Guai. The one who lies is Xiao Guai. After comforting his daughter, Yang Yi thought to himself, there shouldn't be any problems now, right? When he raised his head and was about to continue watching the concert, his eyes met with Murphy's on the stage. That's right. It's a match. Half a minute ago, Murphy had just finished communicating with Chun Ijia. Then, she fiddled with her earplugs and walked to the position that she and Chun Ijia had agreed on in the afternoon. The two of them were to be separated by a certain distance, and look like they were singing from afar. But coincidentally, or perhaps it was because their hearts were connected, Murphy glanced below the stage. With a mother's intuition, her eyes fell directly on Shishi, who was sitting on her father's lap with her little butt up and talking to her father with her back facing the stage. In the vast sea of people, Murphy found it difficult to recognize Yang Yi. But she didn't know why. Maybe it was because she was a mother? When Murphy saw Shishi's back, she immediately recognized her daughter. This was just a subconscious reaction. She was stunned for a moment and thought that she had seen wrongly. But when she looked up, she saw Yang Yi, who was pinky swear with her daughter. With Yang Yi's face, how could Murphy not recognize him? Are they really Yang Yi and Shishi? Aren't they in Jiangqing? Why are they here? Murphy still couldn't believe it. She rubbed her eyes, but it wasn't wrong. Coincidentally, Yang Yi also raised his head and their eyes met. When she saw Yang Yi's expression, she was now sure of her judgment. Then Murphy saw Yang Yi turn Shishi around with a bitter smile. The little girl saw her line of sight, and happily shook the light stick. That excited and cute look made Murphy happy. Sigh, this guy. Murphy secretly scolded Yang Yi. She could roughly guess Yang Yi's intention. But now was not a good time to exchange greetings. She had been standing there for almost half a minute. If she dilly-dallied, she was afraid that someone would find something unusual. If they followed her line of sight and found Shishi, then it would be troublesome. Murphy turned around and walked back to her seat. At the same time, she used her hand to make a 6 sign behind her. 6. What did it mean? Was it like Sun Wukong in Journey to the West, learning from Master Bodhi? By making a 6 sign, did it mean that Yang Yi and Shishi would find her at 6 o'clock in the morning? Or did it mean 666? Of course not. Yang Yi understood. He understood at a glance that Murphy wanted to contact him on the phone later. Mom saw me. Hee, I told you that Mom can see me. The little girl was still immersed in the joy of the reversal. Yang Yi smiled bitterly and rubbed the little girl's head. He was still regretting that his plan had failed. Papa, don't you think it's super awesome? Mom is super awesome. Shishi turned her head and asked excitedly. As long as you are happy. Yang Yi shrugged and smiled. Fortunately, the music on the stage began again. Murphy and Chen Yijie were going to sing together. Shishi also watched attentively. Yang Yi was relieved. After the gentle prelude, Murphy began to sing first. My head is wet, it's inevitable. Ha! The audience under the stage stared at her. Although Chen Yijie had foreshadowed this before, Mo Fei's Cantonese singing, which was no worse than a pure Cantonese singer in Hong Kong, really gave them a surprise. Moreover, the singing style of this song was completely different from Listen to the Sea. Its tone was completely low, which was not suitable for Murphy's original high voice. But Murphy still did not let them down. She showed the same amazing bass and the same rich emotions. She interpreted the song with a different charm from Chen Yijie's. Chen Yijie was like a complete supporting role at the moment. He stood there blankly and let Murphy continue to sing. The more I want to meet you, the more I find that after 10 years, the smiling face I want to see is only nostalgia. I don't know how to talk to you again. If Mo Fei in Listen to the Sea was like a slightly drunk woman who was spitting out her emotions under the influence of alcohol, then Mo Fei in Why Don't You See Me was like an intellectual beauty who was drinking coffee, using light yellow letters and soft strokes to slowly pour out the emotions she had lost, calmly but tenderly. Spring orchid and autumn chrysanthemum, it was hard to say which one was more moving, but what was certain was that Mo Fei's performance of these two songs was intoxicating. Finally, Chen Yijie also started to sing. Like me in the past, I don't know how you changed, as expected of Eason. As soon as he opened his mouth, his deep, lyrical, and highly distinguishing voice attracted the attention of the audience. The mature emotional release, the desire to resist, but also the desire to welcome, seemed to be even better than Mo Fei. Perhaps stimulated by Chen Yijie, Mo Fei also broke out again. When the two sang mature performance, It's Better Not to See Each Other, Mo Fei actually sang very well with Chen Yijie. It seemed that their strength had reached the same level. Of course, many people could not tell the difference. But it did not matter. How many years would it take to see two top-notch singers singing together? Just like Eason and the Heavenly Queen's Spring Festival Gala in the previous life, Murphy's singing was not out of tune, and her singing was better than the Heavenly Queen's at her peak. The audience below the stage was happy. Chapter 344. After all, Murphy was only an invited guest. Singing two songs was already considered special treatment. After she finished singing, she stepped back and returned the stage to Chunijia. Where did Mom go? She watched Murphy's back as she walked away. She couldn't sit still. Don't worry. You'll see her in a bit. Yang Yi smiled calmly. As he comforted his daughter, he took out his phone from his pocket and held it in his hand. Yang Yi didn't care about what song Chunijia was singing. Not long after, as Yang Yi expected, his phone vibrated. He immediately sensed it. Yang Yi hugged his daughter with one hand and scrolled through the text message with the other. It was from Murphy. Yang Yi guessed right. As soon as she went backstage, she couldn't wait to ask Mo Shawan for her phone. Big bastard. Looking at this text message, the image of Mo Fei gnashing her teeth appeared in Yang Yi's mind, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. Okay. Yang Yi's reply was even shorter. After a while, the phone vibrated again. Why did you bring my daughter all the way to Guangzhou? Don't you have to go to kindergarten tomorrow? This woman was still stubborn. Tomorrow? I asked Mr. Mu for a day off. Let's have a Cantonese morning tea tomorrow before going back. Yang Yi typed. Papa, what are you doing? She finally noticed. She curiously pulled her father's hand and moved the screen in front of her. Can I call Mom? Mom saw me. Wait a minute. I'll be done in a minute. Yang Yi still wanted to tease Murphy. This was a little fun between the two of them, so he could only let Shishi suffer. You suddenly came over without saying a word. I'm going to be angry. Hashtag. Attached to the text message was a string of emoticons. Yang Yi had taught Murphy to use them before, and she had even come up with a new one. The image of Murphy pretending to be angry suddenly appeared in Yang Yi's mind. I miss you. Yang Yi sent another simple message. Sure enough, Murphy fell for this trick. After a while, she replied with another message. Come backstage, big bastard. Wait a moment. Yang Yi put away his phone and stood up with Shishi in his arms. Let's go see Mother. Yang Yi whispered into the little girl's ear. Really? Shishi was full of joy. She hugged her father's neck and turned her head excitedly to see where her father was going. Yang Yi naturally couldn't alert the staff. There were too many people, and he had Shishi with him. If they were seen and this matter was leaked, it would bring a lot of trouble to Murphy. However, sneaking around was not a problem for Yang Yi. He used the excuse of going to the washroom, then found a loophole in the security and sneaked into the backstage. If it weren't for Shishi, he could have stolen a staff pass and swaggered in. Now that he was still holding Shishi, Yang Yi could only hide. Shoo. Yang Yi even raised his index finger at Shishi. Shoo. The little girl was not nervous at all. She even thought it was very interesting. She smiled and imitated her father. There were some twists and turns, but Yang Yi still found the backstage lounge according to the map on the wall. There were a few lounges, but there were small glass windows at the door that could be seen. Therefore, Yang Yi found and pushed open the door to Murphy and Mo Xiaojuan's lounge without much effort. Mom! The most excited was Shishi. She couldn't wait to call out. Then, she stretched out her long arms, wanting her mother to hug her. Mo Xiaojuan hurriedly closed the door and paid attention to the movements outside. Then she said with a smile, Wow, I was wondering if I should go and fetch you guys. Brother-in-law is indeed amazing. You found us yourself. Yang Yi smiled faintly at her. It was a small matter, so there was no need to explain. Murphy hugged Shishi and was listening to the little girl talk about how much she missed her. However, she couldn't help but glance over. The rebuke in her eyes was very obvious. Why don't we go back to the hotel first? It's not suitable for chatting here. There are people coming and going outside. If we look inside, we can see everything. Also, we just said goodbye to Chunijia. He said we can go back and rest early. Mo Xiaowan suggested. Brother-in-law, where's the hotel you're staying at? Yang Yi smiled. Same. Four Seasons Hotel. Outside, I have a car. Then let's go back first. Shawan, help me pack up. Murphy walked over with Shishi in her arms. She kicked Yang Yi's ankle quietly. She seemed a little unhappy. She pouted and looked up at Yang Yi. What's wrong? Are you still angry? Yang Yi reached out to touch Murphy's face and asked softly. The warm big hand was familiar. Murphy wasn't angry at all. She just felt a little wronged. However, it was already broken by Yang Yi's gentle attack. She whispered. No, I just feel so stupid. When you asked me which hotel I was staying at this morning, I didn't know how to react at all. Didn't I want to give you a surprise? Yang Yi smiled. Yeah, Mom, are you happy? Papa and I suddenly came to see you. Shishi giggled and said innocently. I'm happy. Actually, when I saw you guys, Mom felt very surprised and was in a very good mood. Murphy couldn't pretend anymore. She smiled and said to her daughter. At night, in the presidential suite of the Four Seasons Hotel, Shishi, who had been playing for the entire day, fell asleep from exhaustion. The little girl slept very soundly. Perhaps it was because she saw her mother today, but there was a smile on her face. She might have dreamt of something interesting. Who did you call? Murphy came out of the bathroom while drying her hair. She wore a loose nightgown that vaguely revealed her fair neck. Yang Yi booked the presidential suite, so Murphy naturally had to stay here. Thus, Mo Shawan could only stay in the business suite. I called Fujun, isn't he in Yangqing City? I'll invite him for breakfast tomorrow. Shishi and I came to Yangqing City today, because of his arrangement. Yang Yi smiled as he placed his phone down. Then you must have a lot of friends. Murphy sighed as she continued. You came to Yangqing City to do something bad, and you have so many people helping you. What do you mean by doing something bad? Yang Yi took the towel from Murphy and helped her dry her hair as he complained. You're still denying it? Murphy was annoyed as she continued. When we were at home, you couldn't hold it in for a few days. You even coaxed Shishi to come and give her a surprise. Do you think I don't know you? Cough cough. I told Shishi. That's also one of the reasons. Most importantly, I wanted to visit you and listen to you sing. Yang Yi awkwardly scratched his head as he continued. The song you sang tonight was so good. The singing of Listen to the Sea made people's hearts surge, and the singing of Might As Well Not See You made people cry. I think that at least half of Chen Yijia's fans will become your fans after tonight. After listening to the song and visiting you, what's next? Murphy didn't let Yang Yi successfully change the topic. She turned her head and looked at him with sparkling eyes. Then, cough cough. Anyways, the Four Seasons Hotel can't be called this name for nothing, right? Why can't it be called this name for nothing? What's so special about the Four Seasons Hotel? Murphy was a little confused. Cough cough. Look at the floor-to-ceiling windows and the view of the river. It's such a beautiful day. Don't you want to do something? Yang Yi held Mo Fei's hand, pulled her to the window of the living room, and then hugged her from behind. The claw of Lushan broke through the defense line that was not very tight to begin with. Do something? Murphy's breathing was a little uneven. She wasn't as relaxed as she was when she sang Listen to the Sea. Do it with the person you love. Yang Yi whispered in her ear. I knew you wanted to do something bad. Bad guy. Chapter 345. Murphy was invited to appear at Chen Yijia's concert. First she sang Listen to the Sea, to warm up the scene, which shocked everyone. Then the two singers cooperated to sing a Cantonese song, Better Not to Meet, which was amazing. This incident was naturally reported by many media outlets the next day. However, the focus of the media's reports was different. Some interviewed the audience and reported their praise for Murphy's singing, and some reported Chen Yijia's praise for Murphy. In turn, they dug out Murphy's history and evaluated Murphy. There were also some unconventional entertainment media that put Murphy and Chen Yijia together and used their various interactions to piece together traces of the two's scandals. Of course, the rumors of these tabloids were not very credible. After all, the evidence they provided was too weak, and there was no solid evidence. Moreover, Chen Yijia had been married for a long time, and was a well-known good family man in Harbor City's entertainment circle. no one would believe the rumors. However, these reports, as well as Murphy's amazing performance at the concert, were all converted into amazing energy, which was shown in the follow-up album sales. On the 13th day, the daily sales of Murphy's new album First Dream rose sharply again, reaching an astonishing 910,000 copies. Although it has not yet broken 1 million copies, it is currently the #1 album on the daily sales list this month, surpassing the second place by more than 100,000 copies. On the 14th day, the daily sales declined slightly, but it still remained at the level of 900,000 copies. What was more noteworthy was that the album sales of First Dream broke through the shackles of 10 million copies. 10 million was the watershed of a singer's status. Many media felt that if an album could not sell 10 million copies, it was not worthy of being called an A-list singer. But regardless of these differences, there was still more than half a month of new song period, and less than 10 million sales. Murphy's album was still very hopeful to get a platinum record, 20 million sales in Chinese. There were even many media who felt that it was only a matter of time before Murphy's high-quality album got a platinum record. Because even after the new song Protection Month, Murphy's album could not be removed by the video store. It was not a problem at all to reach 20 million sales. Of course, they were still keen to analyze whether Murphy's album was likely to break through the platinum standard in the first month. From the looks of it, it wasn't impossible to sell it for 10 million in the remaining half a month. Because of the public's defamation, the internet water army could no longer see it. Was it because Murphy's performance was too strong? Or could it be that after this album was released, the real quality could no longer be discredited by the water army? The people who wanted to ruin Murphy seemed to have stopped. On the 15th day, Listen to the Sea completed its counterattack and became a new song that had taken the top spot before it even hit the charts. And the song it surpassed was Murphy's own song, In My Voice. It was hard to compare which of the two songs was better, but Listen to the Sea was indeed a song that showed Murphy's singing skills very well. As long as you listened to it once, you would completely like this song. Therefore, Listen to the Sea, a strong rise to the top, would never go down again. In the next half a month, it steadily suppressed In My Voice and the other songs of the same period. This was only the beginning. The rise of Listen to the Sea was also the end of Mistress. This song dominated the screen for a month, perfectly giving a great lesson and inspiration to the songwriters in this world. It turned out that slobbering songs could be so popular. Despite the constant scolding and controversy, even on the last day of the new song period, this song was still ranked in the top 10 of the best-selling list. The highest ranking was very close to the first place. This result was already very dazzling for Zhu Jie, who could be said to be a new singer. However, Du Luan still felt that it was not enough and was not satisfied. Ah Jie, look at you not listening to my advice. If you and Murphy had successfully made a scandal, would you need to be ridiculed by these reports now? In Zhu Jie's villa, Du Luan held an entertainment newspaper and talked to Zhu Jie. The big headline on the newspaper was, "The first month of Mistress ended perfectly, and the dark horse newcomer won the third place." Well, it's just that I didn't get the first place. What does that have to do with anything? Zhu Jie looked indifferent. Du Luan frowned. He felt that Zhu Jie's indifference towards his own results was very abnormal, but he did not think much about it. After all, Zhu Jie was usually sloppy and careless. There is a big difference between first and third place. If you are first, people will give you a thumbs up. If you are third, people will definitely laugh at you. Think about it. What's the difference between you and a mistress? Du Luan deliberately said some words to provoke Zhu Jie. What does it matter? Anyway, I am popular now. With the popularity, it won't be too late to fight for the first place when I have a new song. Zhu Jie said confidently. How can it be as easy as you think? A good song is hard to come by. Do you think you have the monster Mu Xiang behind you? Du Luan wanted to pour the tea in his cup on Zhu Jie's face to wake him up. Zhu Jie did not tell anyone about the day that Mu Xiang kidnapped him. Du Luan did not tell anyone either. He did not know why, but he did not trust Du Luan as much as before. Therefore, when Zhu Jie heard Du Luan's words, he began to laugh and said, "That's not necessarily true. Who knows, Maybe I will be lucky enough to write another classic song. You really think you can write songs? Duluan thought that Jujie's idiocy was incurable. He held his forehead and felt a headache coming on. Forget it, I won't persuade you anymore. Since things have come to this point, let's think about the future. I suggest that you shift your focus to variety shows. Your singing is still a bit lacking. If you just focus on being a singer, when the popularity of Mistress fades, your fame will also drop quickly. After all, many fans only recognize the song and not the person. Duluan analyzed the development of variety shows for him. Currently, variety shows are becoming more and more popular. Many hosts have told me that your artistic sense has always been very good. This means that you have the talent to make a living. Therefore, letting Sisterling help with the activities, and letting you be the host of 1 or 2 big variety shows to maintain your popularity is a good choice. How can they let me be the host of a big variety show? Jujie was not stupid. He sneered. It's not like they want you to be the only host. Nowadays, variety shows have more hosts. You can go to a show with 5 or 6 hosts and be the assistant host. There's no problem at all. Duluan explained. Oh, okay. Go arrange it. Jujie waved his hand. Oh, right. Duluan, there's one more thing. Jujie took out a phone from his pocket and frowned. I remember that you bought this phone for me 2 months ago. Why is it so bad? The battery ran out in half a day and I almost missed a date. The battery is broken? Why don't you change your phone? Just let me use this one. Duluan smiled. Okay. I'm too lazy to go out. You go buy me the latest and best. Jujie said without a care. Chapter 346. 3 songs reaching the top was a small record in the music industry. After Murphy returned to the company, Tianmei held a small celebration party for her. At the celebration party, Niu Miling talked and laughed. She even raised her glass to Murphy and all the employees and promised that after Murphy got the platinum album, they would hold a big celebration party. She acted as if nothing had happened. As if she was not the one who asked Mo Fei to create a scandal with Jujie in the office before. In terms of words, she was very intimate with Mo Fei, as if she was dreaming of what happened 6 years ago. Mo Fei felt uncomfortable in her heart. She was not a shrewd person, and she didn't like this kind of hypocritical pandering at all. So she reluctantly smiled and kept a cold face, protecting herself with an indifferent armor. Fortunately, Murphy was usually like this, so everyone was used to it and didn't think much of it. Murphy went back to her office, and the uncomfortable feeling dissipated a little. She poured a glass of water for Jean Yingming and sincerely thanked him. Thank you, Teacher Jean. Without you spending so much effort on the production, I wouldn't have achieved today's results. Jean Yingming drank some wine at the celebration party, but his mind wasn't in a daze. He quickly waved his hand and said, No, it's all because you sang well and Mr. Mu Xiang wrote well. I just added flowers to the brocade. Anyway, I have to thank Teacher Jean for his efforts. You have contributed to this military medal. Mo Xiaozhuan's mouth was much sweeter. If you want to say thank you, I should thank you. This album also increased my fame a lot. Jean Yingming smiled and said, Moreover, I also learned a lot from working with Murphy and Mr. Mu Xiang. Then Teacher Jean, have you received a lot of invitations? What do you plan to do next? Mo Xiaozhuan's eyes rolled as she asked. Indeed, there are a lot of invitations. Jean Yingming smiled and said, However, I haven't thought about it yet, because I'm still serving Miss Murphy now. I want to finish what I started and finish the contract for this album before I think about what to do next. Not only were there a lot of invitations, but Jean Yingming's value was also rising, but Jean Yingming didn't say it. On my side, I've basically finished the arrangement, and there's nothing else. Teacher Jean, if you want to arrange other things, it's okay, Murphy said. In fact, there weren't many places to use the producer in the later stage. When Murphy and Duan Shurong worked together, Duan Shurong was only responsible for the album's production. Later, she began to participate in the production work of other singers. Although, according to the agreement, she was in charge of the new album, and everyone was aware of the unspoken rules. So they didn't deliberately stop her and turned a blind eye to it. It's okay, it's okay. Jin Ingming quickly waved his hand and said, I think I still need to settle down, settle down. Jin Ingming was very clear about his own situation. Although the outside world was praising him, Jin Ingming understood that it was only because he was basking in the glory of this album. He had not become a gold medal producer like the outside world had said. If Jin Ingming was really inflated by this flattery and proudly accepted new orders, he was afraid that Jin Ingming would end up like himself a few years ago. He would go from being a genius who was flattered to failing one after another, and then fall to the point where no one cared about him. By the way, since Teacher Jin hasn't made any arrangements yet, why don't I introduce you to one? Murphy suddenly changed the topic and said, Haven't you always wanted to see Mu Xiang? This project is another new song by Mu Xiang, but it's not me, it's someone else. But, Teacher Jin, this time you can communicate with Mu Xiang face to face and cooperate with him. What do you think? In the past, Murphy would respectfully call him Teacher Mu Xiang, but since she knew Yang Yi's identity, she couldn't say the word Teacher Mu Xiang. Mr. Mu Xiang? I can cooperate with him? Jin Ingming was surprised and asked in disbelief. In Jin Ingming's heart, Mu Xiang was a god. He admired and looked forward to meeting Mu Xiang, but Jin Ingming never thought that he could really meet his god and have the opportunity to cooperate with him. Mu Xiang didn't know that someone was madly worshipping him. He was just like an ordinary person. No, he was just an ordinary person who was moving for his sister. Let me tell you, you're just living and studying there. You should eat at home. Don't buy junk food outside. Yang Yi carried a large suitcase in his left and right hands as he walked down the stairs in front of them. The suitcases looked big, but they weren't heavy. They were stuffed with Yang Huan's clothes, most of which were bought by Murphy. I know, brother. Don't worry, I'll take care of myself. Yang Huan's hands were not idle either. Carrying her backpack, her laptop bag, and a large woven bag that contained winter quilts and mattresses, she said with a smile, But speaking of which, brother, why are you getting more and more talkative? You weren't so talkative in the past. You're almost as talkative as our mother. Yang Yi, who was walking in front, was embarrassed. He pulled a long face and said, Isn't it because I care about you? Don't be. I've only been here for a month, and you talked a lot when I was here. I think you changed yourself because of sister-in-law and Shishi, Yang Huan said with a smile. Yang Yi didn't say anything. Yang Huan was right, but he didn't want to admit it. Yang Yi threw the 2 suitcases into the trunk of Tyrannical Wolf. He then took the woven bag from Yang Huan and put it in as well. Wait for me here. I'll get your backpack and pillow. Yang Yi pointed at Yang Huan. When he came down, there was a little girl following behind him. Shishi, who didn't have to go to kindergarten, carried her backpack and followed her father down. Her backpack contained some cosmetics that Murphy had bought for Yang Huan. The girl also had a mission. Auntie, will you stop playing with me in the future? In the car, Shishi pouted and asked unhappily. Shishi was a little unhappy when she found out that Yang Huan was moving out. Why would I? I only live nearby with your sister Ding Xiang. Usually, I play with Shishi at the coffee shop or at home. Besides, Shishi, you can also come to my house. It's not far away. Yang Huan smiled and pinched Shishi's chubby cheeks. It was indeed close. Before Yang Huan could finish her words, Yang Yi had already pulled over. Ding Xiang, who was cleaning upstairs, hurried down and helped carry the things upstairs. Guazi also arrived at the same time. He volunteered to carry the heaviest box, but after climbing 2 flights of stairs, the little fatty couldn't take it anymore. Fortunately, the kind-hearted Ding Xiang swapped places with him. Don't try to be brave. Ding Xiang couldn't help but complain. Well, this place is so beautiful. Can I come to your house to play in the future? Shishi jumped up and down and looked around the newly decorated house. She looked at the rooms one by one as if she was patrolling her territory. Shishi, you can come here because you are a girl. Yang Yi put down the suitcase and patted his daughter's head. However, his eyes drifted over Guazi. After today, only girls can come here to play. Boys are not allowed. Can't Papa be a boy? Papa is a boy. Shishi blinked her big eyes and pointed out the loophole in her father's words. Yes, Papa can't either. Papa needs to set an example. Yang Yi said to his daughter with a smile. Ahem, Sister Ding Xiang, Sister Huan, these 2 sets of keys, plus the one in Sister Ding Xiang's hand, are all the keys to this house. I promise there are no other keys. So don't worry, no one else can come in. Being glanced at by Yang Yi, Guozi, who felt like there were thorns in his back, quickly took the initiative to hand over the keys he brought this time. No need. Yang Yi smiled faintly. He took out 2 boxes and some tools from the bag he brought with him. It's necessary to change the locks when you're living in a new place. The keys to these 2 locks I prepared for you are quite special. Usually you can't find a place to match them. So I'll leave 2 for Huan Huan and Ding Xiang. The last set is with me. If you forget to bring your keys, you can come and get them from me. Few people listened to Yang Yi's words. He used simple tools to complete the removal and installation of the locks. His swift and familiar movements were not inferior to those of a real lock changer. This scene made everyone stunned. Chapter 347. Murphy already knew that Yang Huan wanted to move out. Even though Yang Huan tried to explain it to her, she still felt bad about it. Therefore, Murphy went to Yang Huan's house to visit. Yang Huan's house was very different from Yang Yi's house and Murphy's house in the coastal area. The more Murphy looked at it, the more she felt that she had mistreated Yang Huan. Thus, she turned around and asked Mo Xiaowan to order better furniture, electrical appliances, and some daily necessities. The small house was filled to the brim. Don't think that your brother is good at taking care of people. In fact, as a man, there are always things that he doesn't consider. For example, he didn't buy necessary appliances like the refrigerator, microwave, and oven for you. Although Ding Xiang usually eats at home, she wants to cook for herself. Or when you're hungry from studying at night and want to cook, you can't find the ingredients and tools. Yang Huan didn't want it, so Murphy and Yang Huan discussed it and didn't allow Yang Huan to reject it. Yang Huan and Ding Xiang could only smile bitterly at each other. The 2 girls wanted to keep everything simple. They were born poor, so they wouldn't mind if they used the old landlord's furniture. Even if they used to live in the old house, it was much better than living in the old house. Ding Xiang felt very uneasy after moving out. She felt that if she didn't live in the dormitory, she would be wasting the 2,000 yuan that she spent on the school year. She panicked at the thought. However, she didn't expect that the situation would become more and more ridiculous. With Yang Yi and Murphy's arrangement, Yang Huan and Ding Xiang started to live a luxurious life. How could they live with it? Even Yang Huan shuddered at the sight of the furniture that was worth thousands of yuan being moved in. However, Murphy didn't know what it meant to go too far. She wanted to maintain a good sister-in-law relationship with Yang Huan, but Murphy was clumsy and didn't know how to talk. She was usually too busy to go home, so she could only compensate her sister-in-law in her own way. Yang Huan and Ding Xiang couldn't refuse her kindness, so they could only accept it with a bitter smile. This was just a small episode. Mo Fei didn't have much time to add furniture for Yang Huan and Ding Xiang. She just rested for a day and then flew to Shanghai to start the song, Listen to the Sea, to make it onto the charts. Cut. Very good, this one passed. Du Yuanlei stood up tiredly, clapped her hands and said, "That's all for today. Tomorrow, we'll gather all the extras to shoot the remaining scenes, including the ones in the piano room. As long as everyone is in good condition, we should be able to finish filming by noon." Yeah. Guozi, who was sitting in front of the piano on the stage of the auditorium, was the first to shout excitedly. The current Guozi had a completely different personality from the Aguang who had been singing passionately in front of the camera. This contrast made everyone laugh uncontrollably. "Ms. Yang, do you have something to say?" When everyone was packing up, Du Yuanlei politely asked Yang Yi, who came to observe again today. "Oh, here's the thing, everyone." Yang Yi clapped his hands to attract everyone's attention. "Thank you for your hard work in the past half a month. This micro-movie is going very well. I even know that many people like Gua, Wang Chao, Qinwen and so on, have been putting all their energy into this movie without studying for the final exam." Yang Yi said a few polite and touching words, then smiled and said, "But it doesn't matter. Everyone's efforts are worth it. This micro-movie will be the first work of online micro-movies, and you will be recorded in history and remembered by everyone. Yang Yi wasn't exaggerating. It was the truth. There was no such thing as a micro-movie. If they were the first to shoot it, they would be the first to eat crabs. As long as they succeeded, the honor they would receive would be incomparable to the small amount of money they received. When they were still students, honor was obviously more attractive than benefits. So when Yang Yi used this as chicken soup for the soul to motivate them, everyone was a little excited and proud. Of course, the rewards I promised to give everyone won't be small. After tomorrow's shoot, we will go to the most luxurious Xian International Hotel in Tingshan District for a buffet. Other people's banquets are all street food stalls. Let's change. Before Yang Yi finished, other than the Com du Yuanlei, everyone cheered excitedly. Guozi didn't lack money, but he liked to eat, so he cheered the loudest. Xian International Hotel's buffet. I heard that the buffet at noon costs more than 400 yuan per person. This is much more expensive than any street food stalls. There's more. Yang Yi smiled and said, after eating and drinking, I will treat everyone to a bar. Guozi shouted excitedly again. Wang Chao also waved his fist excitedly and shouted, Yang Yi, Brother Yang, I'll just eat. Can I not go to a bar? That place is not suitable for me. Qinwen moved over. She didn't want to interrupt others' fun, so she whispered to Yang Yi. After all, she was a famous female star. It wouldn't be good if someone took a picture of her. Of course, this is my negligence. Yang Yi patted his head and said to Qinwen with a smile. Yang Yi turned his head and said to everyone, of course, the idea of going to a bar was proposed by Guozi. So the after-meal activity is voluntary. If you want to go, you can sign up with Guozi. Guozi will organize it. When the time comes, I will take you there. If you don't like such an environment, you can make your own arrangements after eating the buffet. Du Yuanlei was secretly relieved. She also didn't like such an environment. Guozi wanted to go to a bar to play, mainly because he wanted to be fresh. He wasn't old enough to go into a bar. He asked Ding Xiang to sneak in with him. Of course, last time, he just watched the fun and didn't have enough fun. This time, there was such a big group of people, so Guozi didn't have to worry about not being able to blend in. However, Guozi was still very loyal to his friends. As the saying goes, politeness demands reciprocity. Ding Xiang helped him once, so he felt that he had to repay her. After dispersing on the set, Guozi ran straight to the coffee shop at the corner of the street to find Ding Xiang. He said sweetly, Sister Ding Xiang, since you have nothing to do tomorrow, why don't you come with us to eat the buffet and go to the bar? Just treat it as me treating you back. Guozi was worried that Ding Xiang wouldn't be willing to spend money, so he said with a smile, it's okay. It's Brother Yang's treat, and then we'll go to the bar. Some girls don't want to go, so it's a waste if you don't go. Yang Yi agreed, and so did the others. Although Ding Xiang had only been to the set twice, everyone knew that this skinny girl was the chef, who had prepared so many delicious food for them. My brother is treating. How can it be considered as you treating my sister Ding Xiang? Yang Huan glanced at the two and deliberately teased Guozi. Then it's not a treat. I just want to take Sister Ding Xiang to have fun, Guozi quickly explained. Then why don't you take me to have fun? Yang Huan tilted her head and asked with interest. Well, Sister Huan, don't you have to stay at home tomorrow to help Brother Yang take care of the kids? Guozi reacted quickly. Tisk, just tell me if you don't want to treat me. I don't want to go to that kind of place anyway. Yang Huan made a face at Guozi. Ding Xiang waited for them to finish before saying softly, I'd better not go tomorrow. Huan has to take care of Shishi. She can't do it alone. I have to help her. Yang Huan waved her hand and said with a smile, Don't, Sister Ding Xiang. I'm just kidding. You go and have fun with Xiaogua. With my brother around, nothing will happen even if you go to the bar. It's just taking care of Cici. I can do it myself. Guozi also found an excuse and said, Sister Ding Xiang, you have to go. You know the people inside, so you can help me get in. Otherwise, everyone will go in and I'll be the only one left outside. How pitiful. Hearing what he said, the kind-hearted Ding Xiang hesitated. Then Xiaogua, you have to take good care of our sister Ding Xiang. Yang Huan made the decision for Ding Xiang with a smile. Of course. Guazi patted his chest and said. Chapter 348. Initially, Yang Yi wanted to send Shishi to kindergarten and return to the set to wait for the filming to be completed. However, Lu Benji's visit still delayed Yang Yi for a moment. Lu Benji was the manager of the Sahara publishing house. Now that the publishing house was restructured, Yang Yi promoted Lu Benji to the position of deputy editor. However, the job wasn't much different from before, and he was still in charge of Yang Yi's works. Please take a seat. If there's anything, you can just say it over the phone. There's no need for you to come all the way here. Yang Yi smiled at Lu Benji. Sitting before Yang Yi, Lu Benji held a stack of manuscripts in his hand. It was the manuscript that Yang Yi gave to Lu Benji a few days ago. With a bitter smile, Lu Benji replied, I had no choice but to come. After reading your book, my feelings are complicated, and I can't explain it over the phone. You're done reading it? Yes, I'm done. Not only did Lu Benji finish reading it, he even read it a few times. It wasn't easy for him to figure out the plot, and he also saw many details that he couldn't see in the first and second reading. How is it? Give me an objective evaluation. Yang Yi asked in high spirits. Yang Yi had spent a lot of effort to adapt this book, and he had no idea how effective it was. Hence, he wanted Lu Benji's feedback. It's a terrifying novel. To be honest, it gave me goosebumps, but I couldn't stop myself. Lu Benji sighed. Mr. Yang, your conception is truly unparalleled. Furthermore, compared to your previous works, even the popular Prison Break, this book's plot is more meticulous and logical. After a brief hesitation, Lu Benji firmly said, It's the most unique, exciting, and thrilling mystery novel that I've ever read. Letting out a sigh of relief, Yang Yi smiled. With such an evaluation, I'm relieved. At the very least, he didn't destroy a classic. But the problem is that this novel is too different from your original style. I'm afraid that your readers won't be able to accept it. Lu Benji actually wanted to talk to Yang Yi about this problem. What do you mean? Yang Yi frowned. It has nothing to do with the subject matter. It's just that your original style is still relatively positive. Soldier's Assault and Drawing Sword are novels that encourage people to be positive. Let's not talk about the fairy tale book you wrote for your daughter. Although Sins of the Past also walks on the edge of darkness, it's still good overall. Even though Prison Break is a story about a group of criminals, the style of the story is still focused on fighting evil. Lu Benji sighed and said, But in this book, your protagonists are all villains. Even if I admit that they have a sunny side, but everything they do can't be said to be good. And then? Then, I'm afraid that the readers you've accumulated won't be able to accept it, Lu Benji whispered. So you're saying that my book about villains can't be published? Yang Yi was still a little surprised. No, that's not what I meant. This book is very good. It dissects human nature very deeply. People who like it will like it very much. It's just that I think you should consider changing your pen name and specialize in this type of book, so as to avoid losing the original readers. Lu Benji finally gave his suggestion after being naggy for so long. Yang Yi was amused. He said, So that's what you're worried about? Then let me ask you, if I change my pen name, will the number of readers be more or less than what I have now? It will definitely be less in the early stages, but it's hard to say in the later stages. I think this novel is a rare top work in suspense novels. Readers who like suspense novels will be very loyal to your novel, so the number of readers will also increase in the later stages. It's just that I don't know how many readers there will be. It's hard to compare. Lu Benji said. Then don't change it. Yang Yi waved his hand and said, I'm not an author who only writes about one theme. Military, fairy tales, crime, each of these themes is very different from the others, and the readers are also different. But what does it matter? I don't need to care about the loss of readers. The gap will be filled by new readers. As long as the quality of the work is guaranteed, there's nothing to be afraid of. Well, Lu Benji's will was not firm. After Yang Yi raised his objection, he didn't mention the matter of changing Yang Yi's pen name again. He just discussed the plan of the new book with Yang Yi, and soon left. Whether it was a movie or a TV series, they were not shot in the order of the plot. Because of the cost, the director would mess up the order of the shooting and try to finish the scenes in the same set at the same time. The crew of Fairy Tale was like this. The last few scenes before the end of filming were not the scene of Su Shirshir lying on the hospital bed with her hands hanging down weakly, but the scene of Guang and Su Shirshir in the piano room. Guang was playing the piano, and Su Shirshir fainted and fell down. Cut. Du Yuanlei shouted again. She paused and looked at Su Shirshir, who was still lying on the ground. She said softly, "Qinwen, get up first." Qinwen sighed and got up from the ground. She complained. "Sigh, is it still not enough? If I fall down again, I'll be dead." For the last scene, Du Yuanlei had NGs many times. She wanted to shoot it perfectly. She wanted to capture the shock of Su Shirshir's fall. She also wanted to capture Guang, who was playing the piano, and turned his head when he heard the sound. He was stunned at a loss and in disbelief. Du Yuanlei was very careful with every detail. Therefore, she NGs again and again. She asked Guizi to make the ordinary dullness into a complicated dullness. She also asked Qinwen to make the fainting scene more realistic. Yang Yi, who was watching from the side, felt sorry for Qinwen. This little star really worked hard when she was acting. She fell down again and again, and she didn't hesitate at all. Not only was she in pain, but everyone who was watching also felt sorry for her. In fact, Yang Yi felt that Guizi and Qinwen had filmed it very well. Especially the scene just now, he felt his heart tremble when he saw it. He didn't know why Du Yuanlei still felt that it was not enough. He was puzzled in his heart, but he didn't interfere with Du Yuanlei's direction. Du Yuanlei waited for everyone to look over. Just when everyone thought that she was going to talk about the script, she smiled slightly and winked playfully, which was a rare sight. She quickly said, "I hereby announce that our micro-movie called Fairy Tale has finished filming." Everyone was stunned for a while. The reaction seemed to be a bit slow, and the scene was a bit awkward. Why is there no reaction? Du Yuanlei waved her hand in embarrassment. Surprise? Really finished? Wang Chao asked uncertainly. It's really finished. Guizi reacted. He jumped up from the piano stool excitedly and waved his fist. At this moment, everyone really cheered. Although it was a bit awkward just now, the joy of completion made them jump up happily. Du Yuanlei, who had been serious for half a month, also smiled. Although she was very fierce before, and although she fooled everyone just now, she was still surrounded by everyone. She was even thrown up in the air. Let's go, it's finished. Let's go to the buffet. After a while, Yang Yi was also surrounded by everyone. He waved his hand heroically. I have also prepared champagne for all of you. Today we have to celebrate. Chapter 349. After school in the afternoon, Shishi was picked up by her father. No, to be exact, she was taken to her aunt's house. Papa, why don't we go home? Cece was carried upstairs by her father. The winding staircase was a little dark, but fortunately, she was in her father's arms. Although the little girl was a little scared, she still carefully looked around and whispered in her father's ear. What happened? Papa, I have something to do tonight. Yang Yi lied to his daughter. If he told her that he was going to play, the little girl would definitely not want to stay at home alone, and would insist on going with him. So you can stay with your aunt. She has already cooked dinner, and will take you to take a bath. Later, Papa will come back and take you home to sleep. Okay. Papa, aren't you going to stay with Shishi? Shishi looked around timidly. She felt that it was different from the last time she came here. It seemed a little scary. Of course, it was different. Last time they moved here during the day. Although it was only evening now, it was winter and the sky darkened quickly. The light in the corridor was dim and the front always looked dark, as if there was a monster hiding there. Yes, but Papa told you that Papa has something to do and will come back to pick you up in the evening. Yang Yi smiled and kissed his daughter's face. Okay. Well, okay. But Papa, you have to come back early. I'm scared. Shishi put her head on her father's chest. Although she felt a little wronged in her heart, she was still very obedient. When they arrived at Young Hwan's place, the room was bright. Shishi was more familiar with the furnishings here. Seeing her aunt in an apron cooking, the little girl relaxed a little. Shishi, wait a minute. Auntie is about to finish cooking. Young Hwan reached out her fist and bumped Shishi's fist in a manly way. Shishi had always thought that this way of greeting was very amusing. After bumping her little fist, a bright smile appeared on her little face. Seeing his daughter smile, Young Yi was relieved. He stood in the living room and said to Young Hwan, who was in the open kitchen, "Then I'll leave Cece in your care. Have you read the things I've written you to take note of and do? Is the milk powder, clothes and everything else still complete? It's just taking care of a child easy. You don't have to tell me. I know how to do it," Young Hwan said with a grin. Really? Young Yi was doubtful of Young Hwan's confidence. "Leave it to me, don't worry. Hurry up, everyone is waiting for you." Young Hwan waved his hand to drive him away. Young Yi reminded Shishi one last time and left. He brought everyone to Xianing International Hotel to celebrate, but he only ate a few mouthfuls of the buffet. Then he went to pick up his daughter, leaving the rest of the team to continue cleaning up the place. Young Yi guessed that they had started to move. Those who went to the bar to have fun followed Guizi and Ding Xiang. Only Qinwen, Du Yuanlei, and a girl who was in charge of the bar did not go with them. They went shopping together. Therefore, Yang Yi had to hurry up and meet them at the bar. After her father left, Shishi sat on the sofa. She was a little nervous, but her little head was still turning around, looking for something new to look at. "Hey Shishi, come on, it's time to eat." Young Hwan came out with the washed dishes and saw Shishi sitting on the sofa. She smiled and called out to her. "Yes. Okay." Cece hurriedly got down from the sofa. Even if it was a short distance, she still had to jog a few steps. "Why are you wearing so many clothes for dinner? Take them off." Young Hwan did these things very quickly. She helped Shishi take off her scarf and thick down jacket. "Put them on after dinner. I don't have a heater here, unlike your father's house. You can't go wrong wearing warm clothes." Shishi pulled the sweater, which was a little uncomfortable because it was rolled up, and asked curiously, "Auntie, why don't you have a heater? My papa has one." "Well, because I haven't put one on. And I don't plan to. Your sister Ding Xiang and I are not afraid of the cold." Young Hwan bent down and pinched Shishi's little nose, and said with a smile, "Where is sister Ding Xiang?" Shishi was carried by Young Hwan, and sat on her high chair. Obviously, Yang Yi had moved it here in advance. "Your sister Ding Xiang, well, she has something to do tonight, so she went to class." Young Hwan lied without blinking. "Class? At night? Then sister Ding Xiang is so pitiful." Shishi frowned and felt sorry for sister Ding Xiang. "Haha, let's not talk about her. Come on, Shishi, try the fusho fish that I made. Is it delicious?" Young Hwan smiled and put a piece of fish in Shishi's bowl. The fusho fish was actually tilapia. Young Hwan braised it, so it smelled very good. However, Shishi did not eat. She pouted and said, "Auntie, you haven't picked out any bones. I'm afraid of bones, so my father will pick them out for me. There are no bones in this fish. I promise you." Young Hwan put the fish in Shishi's bowl, about 2 inches below the head of the fish, on the back of the spine, where the fish was the strongest and most delicious, and there were no bones. Cece dubiously scooped up the meat and rice with a small spoon. She chewed with her small mouth and started eating. "Is it delicious?" Young Hwan asked expectantly. "It's delicious," Cece nodded and said while cheering. "Hee hee, that's for sure. I used to cook a lot at home, so I'm good at cooking." Young Hwan smiled and said, "Compared to your father's cooking, which one is better?" The Yang family was a very traditional family. To put it bluntly, the so-called tradition was male chauvinism. All the housework was done by the women, while the men farmed outside and worked hard. When they came back, all they did was wait for food and drink. These ideas seemed very feudal, but after all, it was a relatively poor village. "Can't you tell me something that I can do?" Young Hwan was on the verge of breaking down. Then. In fact, Cece was also trying to help her aunt think of a way. Her big eyes suddenly lit up as if she had thought of something. She said, My papa will become Sun Wukong. Auntie, will you? Chapter 350. What was Sun Wukong? Why could Big Brother change? Young Huan was confused. It's just taking care of a child. It's easy. At this moment, Young Huan blushed as he recalled the words he had confidently boasted to his big brother. She had never taken care of a child alone, so she had no idea how difficult it was to play with a child. She was the most obedient one. She was still trying her best to help her aunt. If the little girl had said, "Why don't you know how to do anything?" Young Huan would have been so embarrassed that she would have found a hole to hide in. Leaving Shishi aside, Yang Yi had already met up with Guizi and the others at the bar. Among them, the most excited one was not Guizi, but Wang Chao. This guy very coquettishly wore a red headband on his head, causing his hair to stand up. He didn't know if it was cool or not, but it was quite unconventional and suited the environment very well. He was not usually like this. Usually he was Du Yuanlei's follower. Today he came to the bar to play. Was he going to let himself go? Yang Yi did not mind. He found a quiet booth that could seat 7 or 8 people, and asked them to sit down. Then he took the drink list from the bartender and handed it to them. "What do you want to drink? Order as much as you want." Yang Yi smiled and said, "I want this one. It's hot." Wang Chao leaned over and looked at it with Guizi. He pointed at one of the glasses and shouted, "Wow, it's like blood. It's called Bloody Mary. You dare to drink this?" A guy next to him exclaimed, "Zhu Liang, don't underestimate me, okay? It's not real blood. Why wouldn't I dare to drink it?" Wang Chao puffed out his chest. Zhu Liang was the lighting technician of the film crew. He was also a photography student. "Bloody Mary. It might be a little spicy. Can you handle it?" Yang Yi kindly reminded him, "I'm not afraid of spicy food. Brother Yang, I'm from Sichuan. I might have eaten spicy food." "All right, give him a Bloody Mary, and I'll have a mojito." Yang Yi skillfully nodded to the bartender. "Big Brother Yang, I also want a cup of Bloody Mary," Zhu Liang said. "I want to try it too." "Why did you choose the same thing as me?" Wang Chao started bickering with him. On the other side, Guizi was also discussing with Ding Xiang what they wanted to drink. Neither of them had ever spent money in a bar. Even Ding Xiang, who had worked here for a while, had never paid attention to what the guests wanted to drink. The things on the wine list were still very fresh to them. "So expensive?" Ding Xiang looked at the price tag and couldn't help but click her tongue. Cocktails started at 50 yuan, and it was only a small cup. Even water was sold here for more than 30 yuan a cup. Ding Xiang looked at the wine list, and she felt terrible. "How about I don't drink? I'll just sit here," Ding Xiang whispered to Guizi. "You don't want to drink." "It doesn't matter, we have that kind of non-alcoholic drink here." Guizi misunderstood. He turned to the back and pointed to the juice-mixed drinks and said, "Well, girls who come to the bar, it's best to drink less." Yang Yi smiled and said to another girl, "Long and I, what do you want to drink?" Long and I is the makeup artist of the crew, but she is not a student of Jiangchuan, just a friend of Du Yuanlei. She ordered a bottle of low-alcohol dark beer. Finally, Guizi ordered himself a glass of good-looking margarita, and ordered Ding Xiang a non-alcoholic drink called Sunrise, which was mixed with orange juice, lemon juice and pomegranate juice. The color had a gradual change from yellow to red, very much like the appearance of the sun. Ding Xiang's glass of juice also cost 50 yuan. She wanted to change it to the cheapest water, but Guizi saw through her intention, and did not agree. They drank very quickly, followed by some fruit platters, fries and other snacks, which Yang Yi specially ordered for these bar newbies to eat. If they only drink, I'm afraid they will have to lie down and go back. F***CK, it's really Bloody Mary. It looks like blood. After Wang Chao and Zhu Liang's wine came, Zhu Liang held the small octagonal cup and looked at the thick wine inside. He could not help but click his tongue. "Zhu Liang, since you ordered it, don't tell me you don't dare to drink it?" Wang Chao deliberately provoked him. "Why would I not dare to drink it? I'm afraid you don't dare to drink it." Zhu Liang was not convinced. Wang Chao raised his eyebrows. He picked up his glass of Bloody Mary and took a sip. In fact, that glass of Bloody Mary was only enough for 2 or 3 small sips. Wang Chao only took 1 sip, and it was already half gone. However, he only frowned and swallowed it. Your turn. Wang Chao pointed to Zhu Liang. In fact, cocktails are not drunk like this. Yang Yi thought it was funny, but he did not interfere. He only looked at them with interest. Zhu Liang was not convinced. He also picked up the cup and drank a big mouthful. Suddenly, the cup was almost empty. Cough, 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 cough. Zhu Liang was suddenly choked by the smell of wine and spiciness. He turned his head and violently coughed. Especially the spicy taste. This choking was uncomfortable enough. Zhu Liang coughed until tears flowed out. Fortunately, Yang Yi saw that the situation was not good, and asked someone to bring a cup of water for him to drink a few mouthfuls. Only then did Zhu Liang recover. Is it that bad? Guozi and Ding Xiang were dumbfounded. It's not bad, it's just a little spicy. Who told him to drink it so quickly? Wang Chao turned his head to look at Guozi, beaming with joy, and said with schadenfreude. Who said it's so spicy? Is there chili sauce in it? Zhu Liang's face was now red. He felt like he was about to burst into flames. He could not help but complain. Bloody Mary. There is chili oil in it, but it's not chili sauce. The thick one is tomato juice. Yang Yi smiled. Drink it slowly. Do you want another cup? No, I want to drink something normal. Zhu Liang made a fool of himself. This wine has a psychological shadow. Is your cup also juice? It also looks good. Ding Xiang curiously asked Guozi. The margarita is yellow and looks like orange juice. The most beautiful thing is the circle of snowflakes around the cup, which is actually salt. No, it's made with tequila, lemon juice, and something else. I don't remember clearly. Do you want to try? Guozi pushed his wine in front of Ding Xiang. Ding Xiang was drinking her fruit juice. She protected her fruit juice and stepped back. Her eyes were full of smiles. I don't want it. Yours is so expensive. It's just a little bit, and it's already more than 60 yuan. It's not even half of mine. This is the first time they come to a bar to drink. These guys are still very excited. Of course, 1 cup is definitely not enough. After they finish their initial order, they will also order some other drinks to try. Yang Yi, on the other hand, did not drink. He was like a bystander, sitting on the side and looking at them with a smile. Then he slowly sipped his mojito, quietly savoring the sharp contrast between the strong taste of rum and the fresh taste of mint. Of course, this wine is actually ordinary. After all, this is a civilian bar. Compared to the high-end bars Yang Yi went to in his previous life, the rum used is not authentic. But Yang Yi's interest in alcohol is not as big as coffee. Therefore, whether it is authentic or not, it doesn't matter. Moreover, Yang Yi no longer had the rough vigor of wearing a mask in the bar in his previous life. He was more willing to sit in the booth, slowly drinking while quietly listening to music. So this is what a bar looks like. Zhu Liang's sigh made Yang Yi come back to his senses. I thought the bar would be very messy, where everyone is shaking their head and dancing. The music is so loud that you can't even hear clearly. You're talking about a disco. This is a Qing bar. Wang Chao said. It's not a Qing bar. There is a place for dancing. To be exact, it's called a slow roll bar. Yang Yi smiled and corrected. But it's still different from a disco. The sound here is not too loud, even on the dance floor. Yes, generally after 9 o'clock, the number of people dancing will increase. Ding Xiang used to work here, so she has the most right to speak. If you want to go and play, that's fine. Don't just focus on drinking. Don't look at how sober you are right now. Cocktails are like this, drinking and drinking, you will suddenly become blacked out. Yang Yi encouraged. Right, we can only play until 9 o'clock, then we will send you back to school. Any later, and your dorm will be closed. I want to go. Wang Chao excitedly said. Today, he came here to let himself go. Will there be any problems? I feel that dancing in a bar is not good. Zhu Liang said worriedly. Let's go, brother Yang, let's go play together. It's fine. Even if something happens, we have brother Yang. What are we afraid of? Guozi was very calm. stood up and encouraged, "Brother Yang can fight 10 people." "Nonsense." Yang Yi did not know whether to laugh or cry and said, "If you want to play, then go play. Don't listen to Guazi's nonsense. As long as you are careful, what can happen? It's not like he has the Conan physique." Chapter 351. It turned out that Yang Yi didn't have Conan's physique, so he didn't encounter trouble everywhere. As a matter of fact, Guazi and Wang Chao went out to dance. When they came back, both of them were sweating, but nothing happened. "Wang Chao, is it fun?" Zhu Liang asked enviously. "It's fun. Once you're on the dance floor, you won't know north, south, east, or west. You only know how to dance to the music." Wang Chao said coolly as he pulled off his hairband, tidied up his hair, and put it back on. "What if I don't know how to dance?" Zhu Liang hesitated. "You can still dance even if you don't know how to dance. Brother Chao doesn't know how to dance, so he just blindly swings around." Guazi said with a grin, "Who says I don't know how to dance? Who can dance better than me around here?" Wang Chao's face turned red. He didn't know if it was because he drank too much or because he was ashamed of being exposed. He shouted, "Zhu Liang, don't be so cowardly. Anyway, on the dance floor, no one cares how you dance. You're just jumping around. Brother Yang, let's go play together." Guazi also urged. Ding Xiang smiled and reminded him, "If you want to go, hurry up and go now. There will be more people later, and the dance floor will be crowded. There won't even be a place to stand. Let's go." Zhu Liang hardened his heart. "Hey, wait for me, I'll go too." Long and I also couldn't hold back and excitedly followed. At the booth, only Yang Yi and Ding Xiang were left. "Ding Xiang, don't be so reserved. Today we came out to play. Don't think about anything else. If you want to play, then go." Yang Yi raised his eyebrows and said to Ding Xiang, who had been holding her glass of gradually changing juice. Ding Xiang didn't know if she was reluctant to drink it or worried that Yang Yi would spend more money, but she only drank half of this glass of juice after drinking for a long time. Those people didn't know how many glasses they had changed. Yang Yi was afraid that they would get drunk as soon as they came up, so he asked them to order low-alcohol champagne cocktails. "Brother Yang, I don't like dancing. Let's forget it." Ding Xiang waved her hand in embarrassment. Yang Yi smiled and didn't try to persuade him. He drank his mojito while listening to the band's song. "Big Brother Yang, why aren't you dancing?" Ding Xiang asked curiously. "Oh, me? Dancing is suitable for you young people. As an old man, forget it," Yang Yi said with a smile. "Big Brother Yang, you're only in your early 30s. How can you be old?" Ding Xiang defended him. Yang Yi smiled but didn't say anything. In this life, he was indeed in his early 30s, but in his previous life, he wasn't sure how old he was when he died, because he was kidnapped by an assassin organization and sent abroad. From the time he could remember, he lived in a world of killing. He didn't know his name, birthplace, or birthday. He could only roughly estimate that when he died, he was almost 40 years old. His body wasn't old, but his mentality was much more mature. "Hey, Big Brother Yang, look, isn't that singer Lin Muan?" Ding Xiang suddenly noticed something and pointed at the young man on the stage with the guitar. Lin Muan? Yang Yi remembered this name. He turned his head and saw that the band had already left the stage. The singer on the stage was the young man he met twice. The first time was when he wanted to find a job, and came to his coffee shop to apply for a pianist position. The second time was when he borrowed his piano to play a new song for his girlfriend. It turned out that he was a resident singer in this bar. Big Brother Yang, don't you remember him? Ding Xiang saw that Yang Yi didn't say anything and asked. "I remember. Let's listen to a song. He can sing a Cantonese song. It's not bad." Yang Yi nodded and smiled. In Yang Huan's residence, Yang Huan and Shishi sat cross-legged on the sofa facing each other. Yang Huan supported her face with her hands and stared at Shishi. Shishi followed her aunt's example. She put her arms on her thighs and supported her face with her hands. She tried hard to raise her eyes and look into her aunt's eyes. "Auntie, I feel so bored. When will my papa come back?" Shishi said word by word while pouting. In fact, her mouth was squeezed out by her palms. Your papa won't come back so soon. Young Huan was still not convinced. She felt that she couldn't just give up like this. She had to find a way to make Shishi happy. Otherwise, it would be too embarrassing for her. Suddenly, Young Huan had an idea. She straightened up and slapped her thighs. Shishi, I remember now. You can tell stories, right? You said before that you often tell stories to your friends in kindergarten. Yes, Auntie. Do you want me to tell you stories? Shishi was interested. She blinked her big eyes and asked cheerfully. If their roles were reversed, Young Huan would be very willing to let Shishi tell her stories. She could just lie down comfortably and listen to it. There was no need to work so hard. However, she was an adult. She should take care of Shishi, not Shishi. If she had to let Shishi tell her stories, how could Sister Huan show her face in this world in the future? Therefore, Young Huan said with a smile, "That's what I think. You can tell stories and I can act." She was the only one who dared to say that she could act after learning some basic acting skills from Guizi and Qinwen. However, Shishi believed her. Her little mouth was as round as a duck's egg. "Oh," she exclaimed and looked at her auntie in surprise. "Then we can play a game like this. You tell stories, and then I will act according to your story," Young Huan said with a smile. "What do you think? This is a good idea, right?" Shishi clapped her little hands happily and said, "Great, great! This is so fun." However, what story should she tell her auntie? Shishi thought for a while, and decided to tell her a new story that her father told her not long ago. Long time ago, there was a beautiful girl who was as beautiful as Shishi. Shishi jumped off the sofa and said with joy, "Wait a minute, Shishi. Sit on the sofa and tell me. I will act downstairs." Young Huan carried Shishi back. "Okay." Shishi nodded and said, her name was Little Xian. Papa said that she didn't have a mom, only a second mom. Then the second mom was not her real mom, so she didn't like her. She bullied Little Xian, and her two older sisters made her work. She was so pitiful. Yes, she was working. Young Huan found a rag and wiped her face. She even knelt on the ground and wiped the floor. Yes, Little Xian's clothes were always very dirty. She didn't have any nice clothes to wear, Shishi continued. "Clothes, I didn't have any clothes to wear." Young Huan pretended to be pitiful and fell to the ground, wiping her tears. "Hee hee, Auntie, you are so awesome." Shishi clapped her little hands and praised. Go on, go on." Young Huan was completely interested. Shishi scratched her little head and recalled what her father said. Then she said, "Then Little Xian couldn't go dancing. Her second mom and older sisters went dancing. Why couldn't I go dancing?" Sob sob. Young Huan stretched out her hands on the ground and pretended to be crying. Her performance was exaggerated and full of tension. If Guizi were to comment, he would say that she was a qualified drama actress. Why didn't he say that she was a qualified movie actress? Because that would be too untrue. If he said that she was acting in a drama, it would be better to exaggerate her performance. Why didn't he say that she was not good at acting? Of course, he couldn't say that directly, or he would be beaten to death by Sister Huan. Of course, Young Huan's exaggerated acting skills were very effective in front of Cici. Cici liked this kind of person and couldn't stop giggling because of Young Huan. Chapter 352. Xian was so sad. She had a lot of things to do and couldn't go out to play. Oh, Papa said she was too dirty, so everyone called her Cinderella. Of course, Shishi's story was not as organized as Yang Yi's, but it was good enough that she could repeat it. Young Huan was still sobbing on the ground, but there were no tears in her clever eyes. She kept looking at Shishi. Then a little fairy came out. "I'm a little fairy. Auntie, I'm here for you." Shishi giggled, got down from the sofa, and skipped to Auntie's side. "Ah, little fairy." Young Huan turned to look at Shishi cooperatively. Her face was full of surprise and exaggeration, and her mouth was wide open. "Don't be afraid, Cinderella. I'm here to help you." Shishi looked down at Young Huan's eyes. She patted her sides and said, "Do you want to dance?" "Yes, even in my dreams." Young Huan sniffed and pretended to be meek. This time, she was not so exaggerated. Then I'll let you go. Magic. Magic. She waved her little hand in the air and drew a cute circle. This was the magic trick that Yang Yi taught her, but it lacked a small magic wand. Yang Huan blinked his eyes in confusion. What did she change? I turned a big pumpkin into a carriage. I also made a beautiful dress for you and a pair of super beautiful crystal shoes. Afraid that Auntie could not understand, she imitated her father and explained, the crystal shoes are like glass. They're super beautiful. It was the first time that Yang Huan had heard such a magical story. She was a little attracted. Fortunately, she had the self-cultivation of an actress. She jumped up from the ground and pretended to hold the dress. She tiptoed and turned around. Then she exclaimed, "Wow, they're really beautiful." She stepped back with a smile. She climbed back to the sofa, but instead of sitting down, she knelt and straightened her body. Then she said excitedly, "Okay, you can go dance now." "Okay, I'm going to dance." Yang Huan pretended that she was sitting in the carriage. When they arrived at the ball, she turned around and started dancing. "Wait a minute, you have to come back before 12 o'clock. She thought of something and jumped down again. She ran to little Aunt and said, Because I can't make it appear again, I can't go back." Yes. Yang Huan nodded vigorously. She found the story more and more interesting. While Yang Huan was dancing, Guozi and the others were also dancing. After quite a while, they came back from the dance floor in satisfaction. Guozi and Wang Chao unzipped their jackets and opened their jackets. Zhu Liang even took off his jacket and draped it over his shoulder, looking very chic and cool. Long Ni's face was also flushed from jumping, and she looked excited. With this, the drunkenness from drinking a few glasses of wine was evaporated by sweat. They ordered some more drinks. "Did you have fun?" Yang Yi looked at his watch and asked with a smile. There was still half an hour left. They had to go back after half an hour. Yang Yi was still thinking about his daughter. He wondered if she was unhappy at his sister's place. "Very happy. I used to think that the bar was messy, so I didn't dare to come here. Now, I feel that it's not a big deal." Zhu Liang was not as careful as before. Ping. Clang. Before Zhu Liang could finish his sentence, the sound of a bottle breaking came from behind. The music on the stage stopped. Zhu Liang shrank his head in fear. The others also became nervous. Something happened? But it was not them. Yang Yi frowned slightly and looked toward the direction of the sound. It came from the stage. On the stage Lin Mu and was holding his guitar. He was standing there in a daze and panic. In front of him was a broken bottle. "Ah, it's Lin Muan." Ding Xiang covered her mouth and exclaimed, "Who's Lin Muan?" Guozi turned around and knelt on the sofa in the booth. He looked at the stage with his butt up. He wanted to watch the show. "You jinx." Wang Chao grumbled to Zhu Liang in a low voice. This time he was well behaved. He shrunk his head, pulled down the conspicuous red hair band on his head, and put it in his trouser pocket, afraid that his head would explode because of this thing. The person who threw the bottle also stood up. It was a drunk man in a leather jacket. His breath reeked of alcohol as he pointed at the stage and shouted, "Sing! Sing my ass! It's fine. Chinese people don't sing Chinese songs. You sing. What kind of bird language are you singing?" His tongue was curled up. His voice came. Fortunately, the music had stopped and everyone was watching. Yang Yi only heard some of it. "I'm singing a Cantonese song. It's also a Chinese song." Lin Mu and was a little unconvinced. He held it in and whispered, "Motherf *Ker, you're in Jiangcheng. What the hell are you singing? Cantonese songs. Do you think you're in Hong Kong? Motherf *Ker, are you looking down on me?" The man in the leather jacket was probably drunk. He waved another bottle and shouted. It was as if he was going to throw the bottle at Lin Muan. "Ah!" Ding Xiang covered her mouth nervously and fearfully. She looked at Lin Muan worriedly. Guozi turned around and looked at Ding Xiang. He scratched his head and said to Yang Yi, "Brother Yang, that person seems to be Sister Ding Xiang's acquaintance. Why don't you help him?" Yang Yi glanced at Guozi speechlessly. He wanted to say that Ding Xiang's familiarity with Lin Mu and was not much higher than Yang Yi's. Yang Yi said lightly, "Don't worry, the bar has its own security." "Yes, it's better for us to avoid trouble," Zhu Liang said in fear. As Yang Yi expected, 2 security guards with walkie-talkies appeared. They were persuading the man in the leather jacket. Of course, whether it was persuasion or warning, it was unclear. "Motherf *, tell us to get out. Do you want to close the bar? Do you know who I am?" The man in the leather jacket broke away from the 2 security guards and shouted. The man in the leather jacket's companions also stood up. They were 2 men in suits. They were almost drunk. They said drunkenly, "Don't you know our boss Huang? Call your boss here." The man with the leather jacket was reminded. He waved the wine bottle and shouted, "Call your old lay here. F***ck, every time I come here, I spend tens of thousands of yuan on wine. Old lay dares to push me, a distinguished guest, away?" The 2 security guards looked at each other. The man in the leather jacket called out their boss's surname. Maybe he really knows him. They did not dare to neglect him. They told the head waiter through the walkie-talkie to help inform their boss. At the same time, they humbly apologized to appease the man's mood. Only Lin Mu and was left standing on the stage. He did not know what to do. He had never encountered such a thing before. It's not that the bar has never had such a thing, but this was the first time it happened to him. Lin Muan was just a singer. How could he know what to do? On the other side, Yang Yi looked at the 2 security guards and slightly frowned. "Wang Chao, Xiaozhu, you 2 take Long and I back first. Take a taxi and go straight back to school." Yang Yi took out a few hundred yuan bills and handed them to Wang Chao. Okay. Zhu Liang was worried that there would be a problem. He quickly nodded but nervously asked, "Brother Yang, what about you? What about you guys?" "Don't worry about me. You guys go first. Anyway, my car can't seat so many people. Also, Xiaogua, you and Ding Xiang go to the parking lot and wait for me. The car keys are here. Get in the car first. Start the engine." Yang Yi stuffed the keys to Guizi. "I'll be there in a moment." Guizi was not drunk, and his eyes were still very clear. His 2 eyeballs rolled around, and then he said hesitantly, "Big brother Yang, I'm drunk now so I can't drive. I'll wait for you, okay? Sister Ding Xiang, take the keys and get in the car first." "Hey, I don't know how to drive either." Ding Xiang pushed his hand away and mustered up her courage to say, "I'll go with you guys." These 2 were really loyal to their friends. Their pretense was full of flaws. "Okay, I'm not going to do anything. Don't worry. Hurry up and wait for me in the car. With you guys here, I'll be in more trouble." Yang Yi waved his hand in annoyance and amusement. Chapter 353. After watching Guizi and Gang leave the bar, Yang Yi retracted his gaze. He stood up and walked over slowly. When he passed by the bar counter, he even took 2 slender fruit knives. The music in the bar was playing again. A few security guards surrounded the area, so that it wouldn't affect the business of other places. However, it seemed that CEO Huang was indeed a big shot. When the bar owner came over, he kept apologizing to him. "Old Huang, I know that little Lin had indeed offended you in many ways earlier on. Of all things, he should never have offended you. You're a big shot with a reputation. Why don't you be magnanimous and forgive him? Treat little Lin as a fart and let him go?" That boss Lei brought the wine over, and was bending over to pour a glass of wine for CEO Huang. Little Lin, come over and apologize to CEO Huang. Boss Lei signaled to Lin Muan with his eyes. Lin Muan, who was standing behind, felt a little sullen. However, he knew that Boss Lei was already helping him out. "I'm sorry, CEO Huang." Lin Muan carried his guitar and walked over. He pursed his lips and only spoke after a while. "Iske, this is called an apology? Since when did this Huang's apologies become so cheap?" Director Huang said disdainfully as he sat there with his head held high. "Old Huang, how do you want little Lin to apologize to you? He doesn't have much money. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come to this bar to sing." Boss Lei raised his glass and said with a smile, "Why don't I have a drink with you? Take it as my apology on behalf of little Lin." Stop. Old Lei, this has nothing to do with you. Who allowed you to drink? CEO Huang was drunk today and started to talk a lot. Let me tell you. Today, I'm not here for you. You know that I'm a magnanimous person. Yes, yes. CEO Huang is famous for being generous. Boss Lei laughed. But let me tell you. Why did I lose my temper? It's because of him. Why did he F***King sing a Cantonese song? Last week, I was F***King doing business in Harbor City, and a few bastards dared to slap me in the face. If they weren't the young masters of the wealthy families in Harbor City, if they weren't unfamiliar with Harbor City, and if they were in Jiang City, which is our territory, I would have cut them into pieces. Boss Huang exclaimed, his breath reeking of alcohol. Therefore, the thing I hate the most is to listen to people speaking Cantonese here. Not even singing. Director Huang said as Boss Lei nodded his head hurriedly. CEO Huang raised 2 fingers and shouted. So if you want me to let this matter rest, sure, but you have 2 conditions. First, you have to F***King fire this kid. Even if he doesn't sing Cantonese songs. It's irritating to see him like this. Ah. Boss Lei took a glance at Lin Mu, and before turning his head back, with a smile he said, All right, no problem. How could I make you, CEO Huang, feel uncomfortable, right? Shaolin, don't come tomorrow. Don't come in the future. I'll find someone else to sing Mandarin songs. Yang Yi stood outside and watched the development of the situation silently. He saw Lin Mu's hesitant and helpless expression. Second, bring me my alcohol. Don't try to fool me with your black formula. It's not like I don't know alcohol. As Director Huang shouted, he placed 6 octagonal cups on the table. Then he took the alcohol that someone passed to him and filled the 6 cups. Yang Yi could see the bottle of alcohol. It should be Russian vodka. This alcohol was strong. Drink. Let that kid finish this alcohol as an apology, and I'll let this matter rest. After pouring the alcohol, Director Huang sat back down. Boss Lei's face turned ugly. This Shaolin doesn't know how to drink. Not to mention Lin Mu and even Boss Lei would probably collapse after finishing these 6 cups of vodka that was not mixed with anything else. Old Lei, are you looking down on me? Director Huang harumphed. Lin Mu's face changed. He knew that he didn't know how to drink. His alcohol tolerance was extremely low. However, if he didn't drink today, he wouldn't be able to escape this calamity. He gritted his teeth and was about to walk up when a voice interrupted him. Where it's possible to let people off, one should spare them. Brother, you've already destroyed his future. Can you stop being so overbearing? Everyone turned their heads and looked over. A tall man in casual clothes walked over. Lin Mu opened his mouth. He recognized that man. It was the owner of the coffee shop. Yang Yi did not even look at Lin Mu. And as he sat down in front of Director Huang, under the watchful eyes of everyone, he didn't seem out of place at all. Who are you? Old Lei, why are there so many weird people in your shop? Director Huang asked unhappily. Me. Just like you. I'm just an ordinary customer. I'm just here to shout when I see injustice. Yang Yi smiled as he looked at Boss Lei. Why? Boss Lei, you're not going to chase this troublemaker away, but you're going to chase me out? Boss Lei was still smiling. However, his eyes were rolling around as he pondered in his heart. He couldn't see through Yang Yi. From his appearance, Yang Yi was just an ordinary rich man. However, his aura wasn't like that of an ordinary person at all. Furthermore, looking at such a chaotic scene with a few security guards standing there, this man was equally fearless. Boss Lei didn't dare to offend him easily. As long as he couldn't figure out the other party's background, it was best not to provoke him. Boss Lei could be considered as an experienced person. He smiled and said, You're too kind. Anyone who comes is a customer. We're doing business here. How can we chase people away so casually? Old Lei, are you trying to throw my face in front of others? Director Huang said unhappily. This person is already sitting on my face. Hurry up and chase him away. Boss Lei's face changed. He was weighing the severity of this matter. Director Huang, right? Haven't you heard of leaving a way out for others? Yang Yi opened his mouth slowly. Director Huang was already unhappy to begin with. Furthermore, he was easily angered after drinking. Instantly, he flew into a rage. Raising the vodka bottle that still had some alcohol left, he pointed it at Yang Yi. "I'll listen to your King." Before he could finish his words, a white light flashed from Yang Yi's hand as he shook Director Huang. PFFF. A small knife was nailed into Director Huang's ear. To be exact, it was nailed into the wooden pillar behind his head. The entire blade was embedded into the wooden pillar, while the handle didn't budge at all. Director Huang swallowed the rest of his vulgarities as he turned his head around mechanically. Staring at the handle of the knife in a daze, he couldn't react in time. However, his back was already drenched in cold sweat and his drunkenness was mostly gone. Those security guards took out their rubber batons in a panic as they looked at Yang Yi as though they were facing a formidable enemy. However, Boss Lei reacted in time as he stopped his men and hollered, "Keep it! Keep it!" Boss Lei was shocked as well. Even though he still couldn't figure out Yang Yi, he knew that he couldn't afford to offend someone like Yang Yi after seeing what he did. Boss Lei was a bar owner who did business. Furthermore, it was a very clean bar. He wasn't a gangster. If he could avoid trouble, he would. Yang Yi slowly revealed the other fruit knife in his hand. Caressing the blade of the knife, he smiled. "Director Huang, we're all civilized people. There's no need for us to fight to the death. Don't you think so?" Director Huang finally regained his composure as he looked at Yang Yi. To be exact, he was looking at the remaining knife in Yang Yi's hand. With his teeth chattering, he asked, What do you want?" Just now, the knife had almost pierced through his head. Director Huang didn't know if the other party did it on purpose, but he was actually able to avoid his head so coincidentally. However, Director Huang was afraid. He was half sober, and his rationality had returned. He wasn't a gangster. Even though he was rich, he had a huge family business and his life was extremely precious. He didn't want the remaining knife to be stuck right in his head. Right now, he was carefully sizing up Yang Yi's burly figure and ferocious face as his heart pounded wildly. "I don't want to do anything. It's just that I think you've already destroyed his future. If you force him to drink 6 glasses of alcohol, with the alcohol content of vodka, I'll probably be half dead even if I don't die. Don't you think that you're going overboard?" Yang Yi asked with a smile. "Then what do you think I should do?" Director Huang gritted his teeth. "Director Huang, please give me some face and be magnanimous. I've said it before. Leave some leeway so that we can meet again in the future." Yang Yi cupped his hands and said in a gangster-like manner, "All right. I'll give you some face and forget about this matter." Director Huang stood up and called out to his companions, "Let's go." These few people seemed to be quite frightened. However, they were also quite shameless. After leaving behind a sentence, they swiftly slipped away. Yang Yi noticed a detail. When Director Huang left, his legs were still trembling. However, for the sake of his face, he forced himself to hold on. After they left, Yang Yi turned to look at Boss Lei. That Director Huang probably wouldn't come to his shop to spend money anymore. Boss Lei forced a smile and said to Yang Yi, "Thank you for helping us out." Yang Yi didn't know if he really wanted to thank him. He only knew that with Boss Lei's performance today, he probably wouldn't make things difficult for Lin Mu and anymore. He left the fruit knife on the table and clapped his hands. Smiling at Boss Lei, he said, "All right then. Since the matter is settled, I'll be leaving. Boss Lei, this knife is yours. I'll leave it to you to deal with the aftermath. I'm sorry for ruining the decorations of your bar." No problem. Take care." Boss Lei hurriedly bowed and sent Yang Yi off. Yang Yi left slowly. However, throughout the entire process, he didn't even look at Lin Muan. It was as if he didn't know Lin Muan at all. He was just roaring at injustice. Chapter 354. It was late at night. Although the streets were brightly lit, the cold wind was still howling, making people flustered and flustered. The car was relatively warm. Guozi and Ding Xiang sat in the back seat, waiting for Yang Yi. However, they didn't know when it started, but the two of them seemed a little awkward alone. "Cough this sister Ding Xiang. That singing man, do you know him?" Guozi suddenly asked, breaking the stiff atmosphere a little. "And I used to work here and heard him sing a lot of songs." Ding Xiang nodded. Later, he and his girlfriend also came to Brother Yang's shop, so we can be considered to know each other. Oh, I thought it was a boy you like, haha, he actually has a girlfriend. Guozi said with a smile. He also elbowed Ding Xiang. Ding Xiang was stunned for a moment, angrily pushed Guozi away. Go go go, don't touch me. What are you guessing about? His girlfriend is our school's counselor. While they were joking around, suddenly, the car door was opened and Yang Yi got in from the driver's seat. Brother Yang, is everything settled? Guozi curiously asked. And it's settled. Yang Yi nodded. He raised his hand to look at his watch. He didn't rush to start the car, but turned his head to look at the bar's entrance. That Lin Mu and Brother Yang, did you save him? Yang Yi glanced at him through the rearview mirror, lightly said. Don't worry, no one will make things difficult for him. Brother Yang, why aren't we leaving? Ding Xiang asked puzzledly. Because you don't know how to drive. Brother Yang and I both drank. You can't drive after drinking. Have you heard of this before? Guozi teased Ding Xiang. Ah. Then what should we do? Ding Xiang looked at Guozi foolishly. Don't listen to his nonsense. I just drank a little. It's not a problem. I'm waiting for someone now. I'll leave in a while. Yang Yi was still looking at the door of the bar, and said without turning his head. But Ding Xiang, you need to learn how to drive. If you can come back during the spring festival, I'll sign you up for a class. You can also help me if I need you to drive in the future. All right. Ding Xiang nodded absent-mindedly. What class? Why don't I teach her? Guozi grinned. Who needs you to teach me? This day was really cold. When Lin Mu came out of the bar, he couldn't help but wrap his windbreaker around himself. However, the cold wind of the night kept pouring into his neck, making him as cold as his heart. He turned around and glanced at the bar where loud music was coming from. His eyes darkened, but he still carried his guitar and walked back. An empty taxi slowly drove past him. In order to attract customers, the taxi honked at him. Lin Muan's heart was moved. However, he gently patted the few hundred yuan that he just put in his pocket. After hesitating for a moment, he still continued to walk forward. After walking 2 more streets, he would be able to take the bus home directly. Not long after, another honk sounded. However, it was no longer a taxi, but a muscular pickup truck. While Lin Muan was in a daze, the car window was rolled down. A familiar face appeared in front of him. Home? Where do you live? Lin Muan said blankly. University Town. That's on the way. Get in. I'll give you a ride. Yang Yi smiled. Hey, wait a minute, do you know how to drive? Yes, I do. After a while, Lin Muan sat in the driver's seat and slowly started the car. Yang Yi sat in the passenger's seat, leisurely enjoying himself. Guozi and Ding Xiang looked at them curiously from behind. Boss, thank you for saving me in the bar just now. Lin Muan still didn't know Yang Yi's name, so he said softly. It's nothing. Yang Yi casually brushed past the previous incident. Oh right. After that, did that boss Lei from your bar make things difficult for you? No, Brother Lei still takes good care of me. Lin Muan smiled bitterly. However, after thinking for a long time, I decided not to implicate Brother Lei, so I decided to resign. Boss, please don't blame Brother Lei. Yang Yi glanced at Lin Muan. He knew that he was lying, but Yang Yi didn't say anything. However, Guozi asked curiously. Then why did you sing Cantonese songs? I saw you sing a few. I heard that the boss likes to listen to Cantonese songs, so he was invited to sing, Ding Xiang said softly. Lin Muan looked curiously at Ding Xiang through the rearview mirror. He didn't recognize Ding Xiang, so he explained, there are 2 reasons. On one hand, it's like what this girl said. On the other hand, I like Cantonese songs because I'm from Cantonese province. I've listened to and learned more of these songs since I was young. The Cantonese song market is in Cantonese province in Harbor City. Wouldn't it be better for you to go back to your hometown? Guozi asked, puzzled. When I graduated, I did want to go back to my hometown, but my girlfriend stayed in school to be a counselor, so I stayed in Jiangqing to be with her, Lin Muan said. Yang Yi appreciated Lin Muan's words, so he asked, your voice is not bad in all aspects. Why don't you try some record companies or management companies? I tried many times, but I didn't succeed. Maybe it's because I only know how to sing Cantonese songs? Lin Muan said with a bitter smile. He still had music dreams, but he hit too many walls. What do you mean you only know how to sing Cantonese songs? It's not like you don't know how to speak Mandarin. Yang Yi frowned. No, I mean I'm best at singing Cantonese songs, so during the audition, I basically sang Cantonese songs. I'm sorry my mouth is not good, so I can't speak clearly, Lin Muan said with some embarrassment. They eliminated you because you sang Cantonese songs? Guozi didn't believe it. Maybe, because I told them that I only want to sing Cantonese songs. Lin Muan said hesitantly. They asked me to sing Mandarin songs, and I can sing them, but I don't like them saying that I can only sing Mandarin songs in the future, so I don't want to sing for them. He was really a straightforward boy. Because he didn't want to give up on Cantonese songs, he didn't want to show others his ability in Mandarin songs. Hi, why are you so obsessed with Cantonese songs? Guozi asked. Because it's really good. Don't look at how the Cantonese song market is no longer comparable to the Mandarin song market, but it once created a glory that Mandarin songs couldn't match. It can even be said that it was the glory of our nation and country. I think that when everyone sings Mandarin songs, some people still need to persist. We can't let it continue to decline. Lin Muan felt that he was too extreme, so he quickly explained, I'm not saying that I have to sing Cantonese songs. I also like Mandarin songs, but I don't want to give up on Cantonese songs. It's best if I can take care of both. I can also contribute a little to promote Cantonese songs. I understand. You mean to sing Mandarin songs, but it's best to have a few Cantonese songs in the record. I think it's okay. I also like to listen to Cantonese songs. Guozi nodded. Yes, but I've been to Jiangcheng, and I've even been to Shanghai. I feel that everyone has some prejudice against Cantonese songs. Lin Muan sighed. That's because they don't understand, so they don't want to listen. Guozi hit the nail on the head. He still seriously suggested to Lin Muan, I think that you still have to persist with your music dream. If the record company is biased against your ideas, then you can participate in some competitions and achieve some results. Then you can go back and talk to them. How can he persist with his dream? He doesn't have a job now. Is he going to rely on his girlfriend to support him? Yang Yi suddenly interrupted. Lin Muan was sad. He didn't know what to say. Guozi scratched his head. As a young master, he didn't think that dreams and bread were sometimes impossible to take care of. Reality was often the biggest chasm in front of dreams. Lin Muan was the same. Although Ranjin had always supported him on the path of music, Lin Muan was very uneasy because he couldn't see any hope. He couldn't give Ranjin the biggest promise. Am I wrong to insist on Cantonese songs? Lin Muan drove. After a long silence, he couldn't help but ask. Guozi didn't know what to say at this moment. He couldn't think of it, but it didn't mean that he didn't understand. Bring me Lin Muan's guitar. Yang Yi suddenly turned his head and said to Ding Xiang. Chapter 355. Yang Yi opened the guitar bag and took out Lin Muan's guitar. He didn't ask for Lin Muan's consent, but Lin Muan sat next to him and didn't say anything. This guitar was not bad. Yang Yi plucked the strings, and the sound quality was very good. Of course, compared with the one left to Yang Yi by the old man who sang Nan, it was still a lot worse. But for Lin Muan, it should be the most expensive thing on him, right? Brother Yang, do you want to sing? Guozi said with enthusiasm. And I suddenly remembered a Cantonese song. I'll sing it for you. Yang Yi smiled, and his hands began to play the prelude. In the enclosed car, although it was played softly, the sound was particularly clear and loud. Cantonese song? Lin Muan glanced at Yang Yi in surprise. He thought that Yang Yi said that ideals and bread conflicted to persuade him to face reality and give up his insistence on Cantonese songs. The prelude was very slow, and it didn't have a very amazing feeling when listening to it. Today, I watched the snow drift by in the cold night. When Yang Yi opened his mouth, Lin Muan was shocked. This Cantonese accent was not worse than him. A native of Guangdong province. Is the boss from Guangdong province? I can't tell. With a cold heart, drifting far away, chasing in the wind and rain, unable to distinguish the shadow in the fog. The sky is wide, but you and I will change. Yang Yi's voice was a little vicissitudes, but it was not muddy. Instead, it gave a sense of emotional clarity. It was very pleasant to listen to, even better than Lin Muan himself. Lin Muan was a little ashamed. However, compared to Yang Yi's voice, Lin Muan paid more attention to the meaning of the lyrics. He probably hadn't heard this song before, and he had no impression of it in his memory. But after 3 or 4 lines of the song, Lin Muan was greatly touched. Although he was driving carefully, he already vaguely felt that the boss was singing about his current situation. Wasn't it? Although it wasn't snowing tonight, the cold wind was like an icy rain blowing on his face, freezing his heart. If it wasn't for Yang Yi's appearance, his heart might really have turned cold. How many times have I faced the cold gazes and mockery, but I have never given up on the dream in my heart. In that moment of absent-mindedness, I have unknowingly lost the love in my heart. Yang Yi hummed slowly. The undulating melody was like a winding snake, gradually wrapping around Lin Muan's heart. The helplessness reflected in the lyrics made Lin Muan feel a little suffocated. In the bar, he tried his best to sing Cantonese songs. Although it was because of the boss's request, was there any lack of coldness and ridicule? Indeed, he had never given up. However, how many times had he doubted himself? Suddenly, he felt as if he had lost something. Forgive me for being unruly and indulgent in my love of freedom, but I'm also afraid that one day I'll fall. Lin Muan stared closely at the road ahead. Although the traffic on the road back to the university town gradually became sparse, he still had to drive seriously and couldn't be affected by the waves in his heart. I'm still free. I'll always sing my song and walk thousands of miles. Forgive me for being unruly and indulgent in my love of freedom, but I'm also afraid that one day I'll fall. Oh no. Anyone can betray their dream. Why would I be afraid that one day it's only you and me? These lyrics were really written in Lin Muan's heart. He could only bite his lower lip and hold back the tears that were about to roll out of his eyes. He really wanted to keep singing the Cantonese songs that he liked, just like the song in the song, and keep on walking. No, he couldn't forget his dream, even if he fell 10,000 times. Lin Muan felt that his blood was ignited by this song. Similarly ignited, Guazi's blood was also ignited. He understood Cantonese, and was also a young man chasing after his dreams. How could he not be emotional? It was just that his setbacks were much less than Lin Muan's, and the degree of excitement was not as serious. What does Brother Yang's song mean? It sounds quite good. The only one who didn't understand was Ding Xiang. She couldn't help but whisper to Guazi. Her voice was very low, and she was worried that she would disturb Yang Yi. It must be good. I guess it's a new song written by Brother Yang. The content is about ideals and persistence. I don't know if it's improvised, but the lyrics are written in line with Lin Muan's current situation. Guazi couldn't help but feel emotional for Yang Yi. Brother Yang is really Brother Yang. He can even write a rock song, and it's written so well. Let me tell you, I just secretly saw Lin Muan wiping his tears. So powerful. Ding Xiang didn't understand. In fact, Guazi's words were not accurate. The reason why the song moved people's hearts was not because its theme was ideals and persistence, but because of the struggle reflected in the lyrics. It was just like, forgive me for being unrestrained and indulgent in my life, but I am also afraid that I will fall one day. The first sentence was still firm and unrestrained, showing a positive and courageous drive, but the next sentence took a sharp turn, as if he had returned to reality, and fear filled his heart. The lyrics were written too realistically, perfectly depicting Lin Muan's self-encouragement and self-denial. This was what touched Lin Muan the most. I'm still free. I'll always sing my song. I'll walk thousands of miles. In Yang Yi's previous life, the lyrics were known as a cry from hell. Why hell? Because Huang Jiaju had been deprived of his creative freedom, and his arrangements had been changed beyond recognition. Under the long-term pressure and doubts of himself, he had shouted out his desire for freedom at the most desperate moment. How similar was this to Lin Muan's current situation? Lin Muan and also didn't want to change his insistence on Cantonese songs for the sake of the record company's pursuit of commercial interests, but he was also oppressed by material and reality. In his confusion, he needed a force to let him shout out his inner voice. Perhaps only in this way could he be more determined on his music path. Anyone can betray their ideals, who cares if it's just you and me for a day? Yang Yi finished singing the song but didn't say anything. His fingers stopped on the strings, and the car quieted down. Guizi didn't say anything. He knew Lin Mu and needed time to think. After a long time, the car slowly drove into the university town, and they were closer to Jiangqing Media University. "Boss, I'll send you back to the coffee shop?" Lin Muan asked softly. Yang Yi raised his eyes, looked at him and asked, "Where do you live?" It's okay. Actually, it's in Jiang Chuan's teacher's apartment. My girlfriend has a dormitory. It's not too far. After sending you there, I'll walk back myself," Lin Muan said quickly. In fact, it was embarrassing to say that he was a grown man, but he still lived with his girlfriend. "Then let's go to the teacher's apartment. My sister lives there too. I'll pick up my daughter on the way." Yang Yi smiled. "Okay then." Lin Muan nodded. The car quieted down again. "Lin Muan, what are your plans for the future?" Guizi couldn't help but ask. "Well, I haven't thought about it yet. I should find another bar singer first, and then, like you said, participate in some competitions." Lin Mu, and still wanted to persist. "Why don't you come to my coffee shop? Anyway, going to the bar is singing, and coming to my coffee shop is also singing. In the future, you'll be in charge of the piano in the shop. However, you can't just sing Cantonese songs." Yang Yi suddenly said. It was a good idea to support and promote Cantonese songs. However, only singing Cantonese songs was a bad habit that had to be changed. "Ah, boss, you don't lack pianists in your shop, right?" Lin Muan asked in surprise and joy. "Hee, we didn't lack them in the past, but now we do." Yang Yi smiled. Chapter 356. Footsteps could be heard in the dark corridor. As the voice-activated switch was turned on, the dim light illuminated the faces of the pedestrians. "Here we are, Brother Yang." Ding Xiang took out the key and was about to open the door. "Wait a minute." Yang Yi raised his hand and stopped Ding Xiang. He stood by the door with a smile and pricked up his ears to listen. This kind of old-fashioned tube-shaped apartment had poor soundproofing. Yang Yi, who had sharp ears, heard his daughter's giggles coming from the door. Now that Ding Xiang had quieted down, he could hear more clearly. Her second mother didn't allow little Xian to wear shoes, but her elder sister couldn't. Her feet were too big, and only little Xian could wear crystal shoes. Her feet were too big, and she couldn't fit them in. Later on she bled. Cici seemed to be telling her story. Although it was a bit vague, Yang Yi guessed that his daughter was talking about the story of Cinderella. He didn't know what Yang Huan was doing inside. She was screaming, and she was laughing like silver bells. She sounded very happy. It seemed that they were getting along well. The voice-activated light went off. Yang Yi nodded to Ding Xiang. Seeing that Ding Xiang couldn't see, he said, "Open the door." The door opened and Yang Yi followed Ding Xiang in, just in time to see Cici convulsing with laughter on the sofa. Her wet hair, which had just taken a shower, was messed up by her rolling around. Yang Huan was also sitting on the floor. There was no carpet, but she didn't mind that her butt was cold. Yang Huan was barefoot. She was wearing the high heels that Murphy bought for her. She could have put them on, but she pretended to be in pain. Huan, what are you doing?" Ding Xiang asked, amused. Yang Huan saw her brother and Ding Xiang come in. She hurriedly got up from the floor and blushed. She thought to herself, "Oh no, my image is ruined. Papa, you're back." She turned her head and her eyes lit up when she saw her father. She quickly slid down from the sofa and jumped over excitedly with a smile on her face. Yang Yi quickly bent down and picked up the little fellow. Every time he came back from a trip, Shishi's excited hug was what Yang Yi looked forward to the most. The little girl's sweet and happy smile was definitely the most beautiful thing in the world. How could Yang Yi bear to go out to play and not go home to see his daughter? However, after Cici pounced over today, She didn't intimately hug her father's neck or kiss her father's cheek. Then she sweetly whispered in her father's ear, "Papa, I missed you so much." Not today. The little girl was hugged by her father, but she suddenly frowned. She leaned closer in disbelief and sniffed her father's face. Then, she quickly covered her mouth and nose with her hands. "What's wrong?" Yang Yi was confused by her. "Papa, you stink," she said in a low, muffled voice. "Ah." Yang Yi held his daughter with one hand and sniffed his clothes with the other. He asked in confusion, "I don't stink." "Brother Yang, maybe it's because you drank," Ding Xiang reminded him in a low voice. Yang Huan, who was next to them, was hiding her high heels behind the sofa and pretending as if nothing had happened. "Really? Is it because of the stink?" Yang Yi asked Shishi. "Your mouth stinks." Shishi hurriedly turned her head and covered her father's mouth with her hand. Her white and tender little finger accidentally poked her father's nose. Okay, Papa won't talk to you." Yang Yi turned his head and smiled. Shishi pouted and said unhappily, "Papa, you're not allowed to drink. Mom and Shishi don't like it. If Grandpa drinks, Mom will be angry," the little girl added. "I see. Then Papa won't drink in the future. Shishi will supervise Papa, okay?" Yang Yi smiled and rubbed his daughter's little head. "Did you have fun with Auntie tonight?" Shishi's mood came and went quickly. She immediately said happily, "Yes. Auntie played a movie with me, just like Papa. She was little Xian, and it was fun." Shishi's logic was a bit messy, but Yang Yi understood. He smiled and translated, "Are you saying that she's like the tortoise and the hare that you and Papa played at the Christmas party last time? You tell the story, and then she acts." Yes, but it's not the tortoise and the hare. It's little Xian's story." Shishi corrected him seriously. "Yes, Cinderella. Papa knows. Have you taken a bath?" "Yes." After a while of greetings, Yang Yi said goodbye to Yang Huan and Ding Xiang, and was ready to leave with Shishi. "Big brother, wait a minute. You have to let Cici finish the story," Yang Huan said with a conflicted expression as she walked up to Yang Yi while he was helping Cici put on her shoes. Yang Huan wanted to protect her image and deliberately not mention what had just happened, but Shishi hadn't finished the story, and there was only one part left. She really couldn't bear it. Yang Yi couldn't help laughing. He patted Shishi's little butt and said, "Go finish the story with your auntie." "Okay." Shishi bounced in her shoes and said excitedly, "Little Xian wore those shoes and didn't bleed." Then the prince knew that little Xian was the girl who danced with him at the ball that night. Yang Yi helped his daughter organize her words. Yes. Shishi opened her arms and said exaggeratedly, "Then the prince fell in love with little Xian. They got married and had a baby." After Cici finished speaking, she turned her head to look at her father with a gleeful look on her face. She wanted her father to praise her. "That's right. Shishi, you said it well." Yang Yi clapped his hands and smiled as he gave his daughter a thumbs up. Shishi waved her arms happily. She didn't even put on the long down jacket properly, and it hit her little hands and covered her little butt. That's it. Yang Huan was still a little unsatisfied. "That's it." Shishi nodded matter-of-factly. Yang Huan's heart was itching as she said anxiously, "What about little Xian's stepmother and her two bad sisters?" Shishi blinked her big eyes. In her memory, her father didn't mention these things. The little girl could only look at her father for help. "Them? Why do you care about them? As long as little Xian is happy, it's enough." Yang Yi smiled and helped Shishi out of the predicament. Originally, the stepmother and the two sisters had a tragic ending, but Yang Yi didn't know about it. He wouldn't tell Shishi stories that highlighted the dark side of human nature. Little Xian is very happy. She has a baby. Just like Mama, Cici explained to Yang Huan, pretending to be serious. Although Yang Huan was still a little unwilling, she could only nod helplessly. On the way home, because there were few buildings and they were close to the Grand Canal, the night wind was especially cold. It was like a knife, cutting Shishi's little face painfully. Yang Yi took off his windbreaker and let Cici bury her head in his warm embrace. Then he wrapped the little girl in his windbreaker, just like a kangaroo. However, his chest was bulging, and Cece's muffled laughter could be heard from time to time as she enjoyed the warmth and a sense of security. Why are you so happy? Yang-yi was a martial artist, and he was not afraid of the cold. He even had the time to play with his daughter. He smiled and said, "Didn't you say Daddy smelled just now?" Cece was like a little squirrel. She poked her furry little head out of her father's clothes. She blinked her eyes and then hid again. She giggled and said, "It's still smelly." "All right." Yang-yi laughed in surprise. "I'd better not drink in the future." Chapter 357. This person is the Lin Muan you were talking about? Murphy wore sunglasses and sat quietly next to Yang-yi. She also curiously looked at Lin Muan, who was playing the piano. 3 days had passed since that night. Lin Muan also came to work at Yang-yi's coffee shop the next day, as he had agreed with Yang-yi. Most of the time, in order not to disturb the guests, he played pure piano music, interspersed with singing Cantonese songs or Chinese songs. His girlfriend Ranjin was very satisfied with Lin Muan's new job. For the first time, she accompanied Lin Muan to express her gratitude to Yang-yi. After all, even if Ranjin had always silently supported Lin Muan's music dream, the bar was too chaotic. Her boyfriend's safety had always been Ranjin's heart. Now that it was a coffee shop on the corner, the environment was simpler, and there was no need to reverse day and night. Ranjin was relieved. Yang-yi nodded and smiled. "What do you think of him?" "He should have learned music before, just like Guang in your story. He plays the piano very well, and has a certain level of professionalism. Although he is not as good as a real pianist, he is good enough for ordinary performances." Mo Fei gave his affirmation. It was almost the end of the month, and Murphy was getting busier and busier. Fortunately, today's schedule was concentrated in the morning, and it was also in Jiang City. She just happened to have half a day free, so she went home to rest. Later, she would continue to run around the country, participate in some programs, announcements, or go to record stores to hold signings for her fans to make the final push. In recent days, the daily sales of Murphy's first Dream album finally stopped the crazy increase, but even so, it did not decline much and still maintained a very high number. As of today, Murphy's album has sold 18.62 million copies. In other words, with only 1.38 million copies left, Murphy could break through the platinum album sales. No one questioned whether this album would become a platinum album anymore, and no one thought that this album would not sell 20 million copies before the end of the first month. Now the media was guessing which day Murphy would complete the platinum album's ascent to the top. Therefore, Murphy's next sprint was no longer to prove anything, but to complete a personal challenge. Yang-yi poured Murphy a cup of coffee from his own coffee pot and said with a smile, "His singing is also good. He used to play and sing in bars with his guitar. By the way, his falsetto is very good. I'll ask him to sing Sweet Coffee for you later." "Sugar and Coffee? Isn't this a female song?" "Oh, I remember now. You said he sang it for his girlfriend." Murphy laughed and teased, "I don't care if he sings or not. I'm just curious. Why did you keep him? Don't tell me you want to sign him as a singer for our studio?" "No, I'm not interested in the entertainment industry." But Mo Shaowan might be more interested. Yang-yi waved his hand and said, "Now I just think that he's a talent. It's a pity if he gives up his music dream because of unemployment. So I gave him a job so that he can have enough food and clothing and continue to work hard." "It's that simple?" Murphy took off her sunglasses and looked at Yang-yi with her beautiful eyes. She even cheekily bit the leg of her glasses. "You admire him so much. I thought you would put in a lot of effort to train him." Fortunately, it was only a man. If it was a woman, Murphy might think that Yang-yi had some improper thoughts. Yang-yi smiled and said, "I do want to help him, but not to train him. It's because of fate. Since I met him, I'll give it a try and see if I can help him find his own path of music. But now is not the right time. This kid has a pride in his bones. He still needs to polish his temper." Murphy nodded. She was not interested in this, so she changed the topic. "By the way, it's rare that we have time. I want to discuss with you. What are you going to name our studio?" Murphy excitedly took Yang Yi's drawing paper, turned over the back, found a blank paper, and then held a pen ready to take notes. She made up her mind to leave Tianmei after the contract ended. Murphy was no longer hesitant like before. On the contrary, she was more carefree than anyone else. She often talked to Yang Yi about opening her own studio in the future and pestered Yang Yi to describe the future to her. Now, she wanted to study the name of the studio. It seemed that in front of this industry that really belonged to her and Yang Yi, Murphy could shine with her unprecedented energy. Yang Yi was a bit silly. He asked in confusion, what name do you want? Can't we just change it to Murphy's Studio? The current name of the studio was casually given by Mo Xiaowan to fool others. Even a few days ago, Xiao AI represented the studio and signed a music production contract with Jin Yingming for Fairy Tale. Jin Yingming did not know that it was Murphy's studio. Therefore, after Murphy moved in, the studio needed to be renamed. How can it be so simple? I have to be with you. This is our studio, Murphy said with some dissatisfaction. Murphy even emphasized the word too. It could be seen how much she valued this. She did not want to fight alone. She wanted to face the future together with Yang Yi. Then let's call it Murphy and Yang Yi's studio. Yang Yi once again gave a bad idea, and he even pretended to explain the reason. Look, don't those foreign companies all use the founder's name to make up for it? For example, Pocatello and Ganbao, Ernst and Young. I don't want such a bad name. It's too simple. Murphy was so angry that she laughed. She raised her fist and hammered Yang Yi's arm. Change it, change it. You're so talented. You can't be lazy. I want a more artistic name, just like the names you gave to those dishes before, something like Flying Wing to Wing. Speaking of this name, Mo Fei couldn't help blushing. But don't Flying Wing to Wing to Wing, this is a bit too high profile. You want a more artistic name. Isn't that easy? Yang Yi said happily. Let's call it Phoebe Studio. The first two words are a combination of the Fei in your name and the E in my name. That's good. Murphy wrote it down on the paper, thought about it carefully, and said with some joy. Hey, why are you so smart? I just mentioned it, and you already thought of it? Because I'm smart and you're stupid. Yang Yi pinched Murphy's nose lovingly and smiled. You can do this too. Change the word si to she, the she and she's name. Fei sounds good. It just so happens to combine the three of our names. You're the stupid one, Murphy said angrily. She crossed it out on the paper and wrote down the new name that Yang Yi had mentioned. However, she frowned and said, this doesn't look as good as the previous one. No, the original one is better. Fei Yi Si, the Si in Xiang Si. The meaning is very good. Well, then we'll use Fei Yi Si. Yang Yi followed her advice. Here's what I think. If you put Shishi's name in it, what will we do if we have children in the future? Murphy whispered in Yang Yi's ear. You're starting to think about having children again? Yang Yi gently lifted Murphy's delicate chin. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and he asked gently, then tell me, when should we have a second baby? Chapter 358. Jiangqing Media University had entered the exam week. Although Springfield Kindergarten did not have a final exam, it was also the end of the semester. It was time for the children to have a holiday. Today was the last day of the semester. At the beginning, Ms. Mu told the children that they did not need to come to the kindergarten the next day after school. She also told the children to pay attention to their safety during the holiday and to listen to their parents. After the spring festival, they would come back to the kindergarten for a reunion. It was rare for Ms. Mu to give such a long speech, but she did not know how much the children could understand. When she was halfway through her speech, many children could not sit still. They could not maintain their attention for too long. The holiday was coming. Some children were happy, but some children were sad. Because when the holiday came, they could not see their friends every day like now. Shishi did not belong to the sad group. She had only been in the kindergarten for a semester, and did not understand what the holiday was. Therefore, the little girl was still carefree. She could play as she liked. She did not even care about the holiday. Lan Xian was the one who was upset. She was an old fox. The chubby little girl's expression was a little tired today. Finally, she plucked up her courage and moved to Shishi's side. She whispered to her friend, Shishi, can you come to my house to play during the winter holiday? Lan Xian's voice was loud. Her whisper was equal to other people's normal volume, so Shishi did not notice the strangeness of her good friend. I can't go to your house to play. Shishi blinked her big eyes and said with a smile, because I want to go home with my papa. My grandpa's house is far, far away. Papa said it's fun. Okay then. Lan Xian pouted. The grievance on her face increased. After that, she turned and walked away. She felt something was wrong this time. Her big eyes were filled with confusion. Looking at Lan Xian's back, she could not understand why Xian was unhappy, so she followed her. Lan Xian walked to Yang Luoqi's side and asked the same thing. Chi-Chi, can you come to my house to play during the winter holiday? No, I'm going back to Guangdong province for the spring festival. Yang Luoqi shook her head. Then, Lan Xian asked Nan Zhaoyu. Nan Zhaoyu also said that he wanted to go back to the countryside with his father. Chun Shiryan also said that she wanted to go back to the place where it snowed heavily. Her father was from the northeast. I want to go fishing with my uncle. There are a lot of fish in the ice. They are super big. Chun Shiryan talked about her past experience, which made her friends envious. She also looked at Chun Shiryan enviously. She pulled Chun Shiryan's hand and said, Chun Shiryan, have you seen Sister Aisha? I think there's magic in your house. That's why there's so much snow and ice. I don't know. Chun Shiryan grinned and turned her head away. But this time, Lan Xian was even more sad. Her friends had their own vacation plans, but this chubby girl could only stay at home, as if she was abandoned by the world. I haven't seen snow, but Shishi, my grandpa's house has flowers. There are flowers everywhere. Yang Luoqi said to Shishi, I don't know if my grandpa's house has snow, and I don't know if there are flowers. I haven't seen Grandpa. Shishi shook her head, her twin ponytails swinging back and forth, and said to her friends, Little aunt and my papa have seen each other. If only Sister Aisha was there, I want to see snow. The little girl's thoughts were jumping around, suddenly jumping to her grandpa and back again. Hee hee. Her friends were talking and laughing, and their laughter reached the ears of Lan Xian, who had already walked to the side. Lan Xian was not in the mood to talk. She wanted to be alone, but when she heard her friends' happy laughter, she became even more sad. Boo-hoo-boo. Lan Xian sobbed in a low voice, but it still reached the ears of Shishi and the others. Several of her friends gathered around. Chun Shiryan scratched her head and said loudly, why is Xian crying? Let's tell Mr. Mu. After that she ran out. Shishi looked at her friends and was a little at a loss. She instinctively squatted together with Lan Xian. At first, she held her little hand and carefully looked at Lan Xian, who was wiping her tears. Xian, don't cry, okay? Why are you crying? Shishi reached out and hugged Lan Xian's shoulders from the side. Her beautiful little face was full of worry. Xian, don't cry. Yang Luoqi also learned from Shishi and said in a low voice. Fortunately, Lan Xian was a little girl who could not hide her feelings. After Shishi asked, she sobbed and could not wait to tell her depression. She choked with sobs and said, you all went home. I'm alone. No one to play with me. Xian, you can come to my house to play. Shishi suggested. No, I can't go to a place far away. Boo-hoo. Lan Xian's cries shook the sky, but Shishi, Yang Luoqi, and Nan Zhaoyu could not think of a way. They could only wait for Mr. Mu to come. After school, it was really time to say goodbye. Lan Xian cried sadly again. When Yang Yi picked up Shishi, the little girl was a little unhappy. What's wrong with you? Yang Yi squatted down and covered his daughter's cold face with his warm hands. He asked with a smile, Why are you unhappy to see Daddy? I'm not unhappy to see Daddy. Shishi pouted. She leaned into her father's arms and played with the ball of wool on her gloves. Then why? Look at your mouth. You can hang a soy sauce bottle on it. Yang Yi pinched his daughter's pink little mouth and laughed. It's not like that. Xian is crying. I'm sad too. Shishi was amused by her father. She laughed and avoided her father's hand while explaining to him. Yang Yi finally figured out his daughter's troubles. The kind-hearted little girl did not know what to do when she saw her little friend sad, so she was sad too. Xian Air is sad because she is alone in Jiang City. You can tell her that. Yang Yi whispered in his daughter's ear. Can I really? Won't Xian Air be sad? She tilted her little head and asked confusedly. Yes. I promise she won't be sad again. Go and tell her. Don't let her be unhappy during the holiday. Yang Yi smiled and pushed his daughter's little butt. She skipped over and found Lan Xian, who was still wiping her tears and waiting for her father's driver to pick her up. Xian Air, don't cry. My papa said don't be sad. I can't play with you during the holiday, but I will bring you a lot of delicious food. She hugged Lan Xian's shoulder again, and said a lot in her ear. Delicious food? Lan Xian's eyelashes were still wet with tears. She suddenly stopped crying and looked at her little friend blankly. Yes, my papa said, there are super delicious sesame seed cakes and super delicious walnuts. She listed out what her father said to Lan Xian. In fact, she did not know what sesame seed cakes were. There are so many delicious food. Lan Xian finally smiled and shouted in surprise. Yes, but you can't cry. My papa said if you don't cry you can eat it. But if you don't behave, my papa won't bring it to you. She wiped Lan Xian's tears with both hands, although the tears were wiped into her gloves. Don't cry. Wipe it away, wipe it away. I'm not crying. Lan Xian hurriedly wiped her tears away, and even used her own shirt to wipe them away. In the end, Lan Xian and she looked at each other and giggled. Sure enough, this was the best way to deal with Lan Xian, this little foodie. Yang Yi looked at them from not far away and smiled. Chapter 359. On January 28th, there were still 3 days before the end of the Copyright Protection Month, but the latest sales data refreshed on the Copyright Organization's website showed that Murphy's First Dream had successfully reached the top with a sales of 61 million copies, and it was also the first platinum album in the Chinese music industry this year. This honor could be said to be within expectations. Many media outlets were waiting for this moment to arrive. Once the news was confirmed, they quickly sent out the manuscripts they had already written. Although yesterday's daily sales had achieved a reverse growth and once again broke through the limit of 1 million copies, now no one paid attention to the daily sales issue again. The media reported from different angles. Some talked about Murphy's strong return after 6 years. Some talked about Murphy's extension to the possibility of an outdated star returning to the peak, and some sorted out the historical information, detailing how difficult it was for Murphy to regain her glory again, and how much effort she had to put in. No matter what angle it was, they were all wildly praising Murphy. Jin Yingming flipped through a stack of newspapers, and could no longer see people who were still slandering, smearing, or singing a different tune. Mr. Muziang, this is not good. They are all praises, and there is no criticism at all. For Murphy, this is not a good thing. You have to know that these people, no matter how high you are praised, when you lose your balance, you will fall miserably. Jin Yingming said to Yang Yi with emotion. He had experienced it before, so he had the most right to speak. As of today, Jin Yingming and Yang Yi had been working together for 4 days. The relationship between the two people had also gradually changed from the initial excitement to the calm of a teacher and a friend. It was hard to say who was the teacher, because Yang Yi was also learning the technique of editing from Jin Yingming. Jin Yingming was more than happy to communicate with Yang Yi. Yang Yi brought some relatively new arrangements from other people's previous life, which also benefited Jin Yingming a lot. In the face of Jin Yingming's worries, Yang Yi was very calm. He was working on Jin Yingming's editing software, which was actually X***G. After saving it, he smiled and said, Well, you are right, but don't worry, Murphy is not someone who will be complacent just because of a little praise. This calmness, if Jin Yingming had not already seen through Yang Yi and Murphy, he might have thought that Yang Yi was too indifferent to Murphy. Mr. Muziang really knows Mo Fei. Cough, by the way, you can't fix this audio track has to be deleted. Jin Yingming said meaningfully, and then reached out to click on the computer. Yang Yi was not worried about Mo Fei at all. Not only because he knew that Mo Fei would not become complacent, but also because he was confident that he could help Mo Fei not fall from the peak easily. However, Yang Yi and Ji Ningming were both wrong. At this time, not only was Murphy not complacent, she was also not as calm as Yang Yi said. Instead, she was serious, and there was even a hint of melancholy in her cold aura. She was a bit like Sister Lin. Mo Xiaowan frowned when she saw this. She was accompanying Murphy to participate in a music program. Taking advantage of the intermission, Murphy returned to the lounge, and she quickly went up to her. "My sister, why are you frowning all day?" Mo Xiaowan asked with concern. "Am I?" Murphy asked doubtfully. "Yes." Mo Xiaowan nodded and said affirmatively. She even reached out to touch Murphy's forehead, worried that Murphy was sick. "Why do you look so unhappy? Now that you've got a platinum album and everyone is congratulating you, shouldn't you be happy? Or is it because you quarreled with brother-in-law?" "No, why would I quarrel with Yang Yi? As for the platinum album, wasn't it confirmed a few days ago that I would definitely get it? It was expected, so I didn't take it to heart." Murphy smiled at Mo Xiaowan. "No, you must have something on your mind." Mo Xiaowan touched her chin and said firmly, "If you say something is on my mind, then there is indeed something, but it's not that I'm unhappy. It's like this. Isn't there less than 2 weeks before the Spring Festival? This Spring Festival, I have to go to Yang Yi's house. Thinking of seeing Yang Yi's parents, I'm very nervous and don't know what to do." Murphy finally told Mo Xiaowan about her worries. Mo Xiaowan understood. She rolled her eyes and said, "Sister, you're thinking too much. Last time, when Yang Huan came, you didn't eat or drink for several days. Is that necessary? You're a superstar. It's their blessing to marry into their family. They can't be more than happy." "You can't think of it that way. When it comes to happiness in marriage, everyone is equal. Being a superstar doesn't matter. Instead, I'm worried that they won't like me if I show up in public because I'm a superstar," Murphy said worriedly. "What era is it now? But it makes sense for you to think that way. Brother-in-law's family is a little traditional." Mo Xiaowan changed her mind. She thought carefully and said, "Why don't you ask Yang Huan what kind of daughter-in-law the Yang family likes? She's close to you so she can give you some ideas." Murphy thought that it was a good idea, so she returned to the hotel that night and called Yang Huan for help. "Actually, this matter is simple. My parents definitely won't do anything to you and Shi. My big brother, on the other hand, will probably go back and suffer a little. This matter will probably be over." Yang Huan said to her with a smile. "Huh. Why does Yang Yi have to suffer?" Murphy panicked. "Sigh, I don't know what to say about my dad. He's very traditional. In the past, he used to hold a stick and force my 2 brothers to practice martial arts. I was fine because I was the youngest and I was a girl, so my dad rarely hit me. But my brothers were miserable. If they did something wrong, they would be punished by kneeling in the ancestral hall. If it was serious, they would even be punished with a stick," Yang Huan explained to Murphy. Mo Fei was scared out of his wits. "Now that my brother brought a child home without telling us, my dad will definitely think that he did something bad outside. It's inevitable that he will have to reflect on himself in the ancestral hall. But you don't have to worry. For Shishi's sake, they won't make things difficult for you. They will only be angry at my brother. Also, as long as Shishi's words are sweet, my dad will be amenable to coaxing but not coercion. If my dad is happy, he will only play with his granddaughter. Maybe he won't punish my brother." Yang Huan was actually a little uncertain, but she still had some confidence in Shishi. "But we can't let Yang Yi bear it alone." Murphy complained that Yang Yi never told her this in her heart. She continued to ask Yang Huan for help. "I have to do something too. Huan, what kind of wife do your parents like?" "Well, to be honest, it's a little difficult for you," Yang Huan said honestly. "My parents are more traditional. They like a sensible, filial, and virtuous daughter-in-law." "Then can I do something like this? When I go back, I will try my best to do more things. For example, I will rush to pour tea for them, rush to clean the house, and rush to wash the dishes after dinner. Murphy thought about the scenes in the TV series and said in her heart, "Got it. I don't think it's a big deal. If you can rush to cook for my mom and make her happy, my dad won't have a problem." Young Hwan raised her voice. She had thought of a good idea for Murphy. Cook? Cook. Murphy was a little confused. She had never done these things in her life. At most, she knew how to make instant noodles. However, Murphy had decided to share the burden of her parents with Yang Yi. She could not shirk her responsibility anymore. "I want to learn how to cook." Murphy thanked Yang Hwan and hung up the phone. Then, she said seriously to Mo Shawan, "You want to learn how to cook?" Mo Shawan widened her eyes and looked at Murphy suspiciously. She had no confidence in her cousin at all. Then, she scratched her head and said awkwardly, "Sister, why are you looking at me like that? I don't know how to cook. At most, I can cook some porridge. You know who is the most suitable teacher for you?" Of course, it was Yang Yi. However, Murphy shook her head and said, "Yang Yi will definitely not want me to learn how to cook. If he knows, he will advise me not to think too much. I always take all the pressure on myself. This time, I have to do something for him. So, I want to learn by myself. You have to study with me." This was the main reason. Another reason was that Murphy wanted to give Yang Yi a surprise. She wanted to secretly learn how to cook, and then suddenly show it to Yang Yi and his family. Thinking about Yang Yi's stunned expression, Murphy was full of joy. "All right then. I can only risk my life to accompany you." Mo Shawan sighed. She felt that she was done for. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.